Morton calls good game.
Unbelievable.
Sergio Ramos wins! First ever CRL World Champion!
Team Liquid is going to be your champion! Mugi 2021!
He's done it! Mohamed Light, World Champion! The Clash Royale League starts now!
Hello and welcome to CRL in 2023. That's right, it's been 6 months since Mohamed Light hoisted that trophy and that gigantic check in Finland, claiming that he was the greatest in the world. But AC, it's a brand new year, it's a brand new season, and Mo and Morton are still here. Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Guy. Joining me as always is my good friend Joshua AC Sharon. Big shout out to Rich, my brother from another mother, and Juicy J, who'll be joining us later on throughout the season. AC, big day today, brother. How you feeling?
You know, I'm feeling great. There's something in my body that just needed you to say brand new players, even though, like, obviously it's not brand new players, but I don't know, it doesn't feel right when you didn't say that. I'm so excited for this. 6 months since the last CRL. I've missed it so much. I'm out of breath. I'm not used to, like, talking and actually, like, using my emotions like I am right now, so I'm just really excited for this.
I'm ready to go too, and you guys should be excited because as we look at our format for the year, you politely asked online, guys, please change the format, give us a leaderboard, give us golden tickets. Well, guess what? We got both, but to get to those World Finals, those 16 players need to work through our roadmap of this season. How does it work? Well, every single month there's the Ultimate Champion. If you're in the top 1,000 of that, you will be placed in a monthly qualifier that is a 2-day Swiss bracket. After those 2 days, it will be whittled all the way down to 8 players like we have here today for our monthly final. The monthly final takes place over 2 days, and of course, those 8 will be taken down to 1 for that golden ticket. AC, how does every single month format work?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's always going to be the exact same way. We are, again, having the dual format this year. It's going to be 8 players, double elimination. You are allowed to lose once, but we don't recommend it. It's going to be best of 3s, 4 unique decks. Use Hog game 1, can't use it game number 2 or game number 3. And, I mean, it's the same thing that we've been seeing for the last couple years.
That's right. A fun little caveat is we'll be using the in-game duel format, so no downtime between games. These players are going to have to think on their feet, on the fly. And of course, there's a lot of gold that goes along with that golden ticket. $16,000 for first place. And of course, like I keep mentioning, that golden ticket, you can get that in first place. But if you don't, you can still get 10K in second, 7K in third, and of course, $4,000 in fourth place. And if you just make it through, if you just make it to monthly finals, you still get at least $1,000. AC, double elimination bracket, a lot of work to do. We're going to get through 8 matches here today. And of course, we have a premier matchup, a World Finals rematch, second match of the day between Morton and Mohamed Light. But we all know everything about that. We've talked about it relentlessly for years now, it feels like. Match number 1, Faust and Keita. Match number 3, Sandbox, Haciel. Match number 4, Ilion and Minnie. And then we'll work through some of the lower and upper bracket. Of course, 6 of these players, AC, you kind of mentioned it before, intimated a little bit. 6 of these players have been to World Finals before, and a couple have not in Faust and Ilion. Anything standing out to you on this bracket?
Well, okay, there's a couple things. I mean, one of them is just Ilion. I feel like we have to kind of do a special segment on him. 6 of these players have made it to the World Finals. The other player besides Ilion that hasn't is Faust, and he was supposed to be in CRL since, you know, back in 2019, back in 2020. Yeah. So everybody knows how talented he is. And then Ilion on the other side, he is talented. He's very, very good, but he just hasn't had a ton of competitive success. And so it is so cool to see what he can do today. You know, with March Madness going on, I want to make all sorts of basketball references. And this doesn't feel like a 16th seed. You know, looking at his gameplay, looking at what he's done, you know, this is still a very solid player. So I'm really excited to see what he can do today.
Well, one thing about March Madness is a bracket. I believe you have a 1 in 1 quintillion chance of getting a perfect bracket. I think I saw that online. Looks like you and I have pretty much gone straight down the middle here. Faust to open things off, even though Keita's been to World Finals a couple times. Mohamed Light, our reigning, defending, the greatest player to ever touch Clash Royale, has the edge over the consistent GOAT in Morton. Then you and I split, Sandbox and haciel, and then of course Minnie to close things out. Very curious to see how Minnie plays against Ilion, who you were just talking about, because he had a pretty quiet 2022. Let's see how he starts things off here in 2023. Match 3, Sandbox, haciel. AC, why are you going to the other side?
I mean, it's just, it really is just that Sandbox went 0-1 in the top 1,000, and then he went 0-1 in the round of 32, and I mean, you just can't have these slow starts, and just because of that, I have to give the edge to haciel.
All right, well, you know what? I love being right. I love being right on broadcast, and I predict that I'm going to do better than you. So those are our predictions. And before we get into the action today, we do need to acknowledge a tragedy that we suffered this week in the community. You know, Floppy was a wonderful person, an incredible player. He had a brilliant and magnetic personality. I think it speaks volumes when you want to watch someone stream for hours, even though you can't understand a word that they're saying. A tragic loss, and we very much will sorely miss him. AC, I know that Floppy was a good friend of yours.
Yeah, he was an extraordinary guy. I'm really blessed to be able to have called him a friend. I used to love getting into matches against him on ladder and tournaments, because every single time both of us would immediately say GG. We talk to each other, whether it be Twitter DMs or on stream. And he's like one of the only guys that I didn't really mind losing against. There was such a positive energy to him, and just such a great guy.
Yeah, he really lit up the room when we were able to, or when I was able to meet him in Finland, I should say. So if you guys would please join us in a moment of silence for our good friend, Justice, Floppy, wherever you are. We miss you, man. Definitely a difficult way to start our day here in CRL, but have to acknowledge greatness. And like I said, we will miss him very much, and hopefully all the players today will replicate that same energy that Floppy had, including this first matchup with Faust, who is a countryman of Floppy, going up against Keita. And this is going to be a fun one, man. I mean, you know, Faust and Keita have been in the scene for a long time. You mentioned it. Faust has kind of been a player that should have been premier years ago, and maybe 2023 is the year for him. Keita on the other side, it feels like he's not past his prime, but maybe he took a little bit of time off. He's coming out of retirement. It's been a couple years since we've seen him at World Finals. Maybe he's back. Win rate, maybe not the best, especially when you look at Faust's.
Yeah, and I really want to look at the win rate for Keita, because I think that is just what you see from these older players, where your win rate is going to be 10 to 15% worse than some of these newer stars. But the reason why it is that way is because you're winning 2-1. You're winning the third game of the best of 3 4 different times out of, you know, your 6 or 7 wins, and the other players are just sweeping. But always winning 2-1, you build up that tolerance to the pressure. You're ready for the moment. And, you know, that's why we're seeing these veterans have the low win rates and then just explode once we reach these top 8, the monthly finals, the actual world finals. And so I really like the contrast, the huge contrast in win rates right there.
I love having you in the booth for reasons like that, because it's something that you might not think about as home as much. When you look at that win rate, you're like, oh, Keita's going to lose, Faust's going to win. But that's a really, really great point that you make there, AC. So much of this game is about that mental fortitude. We've talked about it now for 6 seasons. This is our 6th season of CRL. Day 1, match 1. Let's go. Keita bottom of the screen, Faust at the top. Starting off with, honestly, 2 of the most popular cards in the game right now, the Miner and the Ice Spirit. Goblins, archers, minor poisons, oh my, that seems to be the meta right now. And Faust not staying away from at least the Miner and Ice Spirit. Bottom of your screen, classic Royal Hog cycle. AC, is it back in the meta?
You know, I am just, it's not even that. Is it back in the meta? It's just like, I really don't like this deck. A lot of the times, it feels like you just have that one, it feels like you always have 1 or 2 opportunities, and then even if you have that opportunity work out for you, you're not getting enough damage. You really need a lot of things to be out of cycle, and when you look at Faust's deck, he has the Ice Spirit, Skeletons, the 3-card cycle if he chooses to do so, and then he also has the Bomb Tower. So I don't know what's going to happen. It really depends.
Oh, wow.
But also with the NATO, this is just such a tough opener for Katassian.
Yeah, I mean, and also the fact that so many people have been talking about the Golden Knight's dash, range, ability, point of view, whatever you want to call it. He goes wherever he pleases. And when you talk about Royal Hogs coming in a single target unit, the Golden Knight isn't really that anymore. It's not really a single target unit. It can do so much against those Hogs. So, like you said, AC, 3-card cycle on both sides, but Faust just has these defenses cleaned up so easily. What is the way through for Keita? I mean, Earthquake Cycle isn't really the move anymore. Is it just get as many AQs on the board? Like, keep the AQs on the board as long as you can. What's the game strategy here?
You know, I cannot think of a single thing that he could do.
Tell me right now.
No, I mean, with the poison and bomb tower for defense for Faust, I mean, he can go quickly, but I just don't. I think maybe he can try an Earthquake Cycle and then Archer Queen Cycle, and then potentially with that, he can start making some other moves that'll allow him to do something.
And this dash was so close, man. Was it because of the recruiters or just because the AQ was high enough?
I think it's because of the Golden Knight. It's just, it knows its responsibilities as a troop, and it gets it done.
Look at that. Skelly's tanking for that Archer Queen, getting a few shots in. A little bit of hope there for Keita as this delivery comes down just in time. And, you know, this kind of goes back to what you were just talking about, AC, at the top of the match in terms of that mental fortitude and sticking through things. You and I cannot figure out a way for Keita to win this matchup. He's only down by a couple hundred HP, and he's still going strong. These Royal Hogs kind of feel like they could be a waste of elixir every now and then, but also it is going to bait out that bomb tower and a little bit of defensive plays from Faust. So Keita not doing bad, still down by 100.
Yeah, and a solid Fire Spirit right there, just trying to get a little bit of pressure. I mean, if he gets, and this is the thing, actually right here, a little bit of damage. Ice Spirit to sort of halt the damage right there. But I mean, he can defend with just skellies and a log, and then if he gets aggressive, he chooses the right times for every single offensive push. He certainly has an opportunity, and right here, a nice little poison NATO that is going to be able to take the Archer Queen off the board.
Yeah, really nice poison NATO there. You saw the AQ being placed offset to left, trying to work down that left-hand lane, keep up the dual lane pressure, and of course not give spell value. Faust goes, no, no, no. That's what this NATO is for. The NATO Golden Knight combo is devastating, but of course also that NATO being used with that poison. Pretty nice moves there by Faust.
Yeah, and right here, now that we've hit triple elixir, this is where Faust's deck like really shines. He can start getting very aggressive with poisons. He can do poison before the miner, just because Katassian's only response is going to be the skeletons. So I mean, poison just needs to be down on the board, and he can't stop it.
Yeah, and a perfectly healthy AQ protected there. Second set of Royal Hogs comes down, but just too much defense here for Faust. And while Keita was able to get a little bit of damage, he had to sacrifice some damage for that tower in the bottom right-hand side. These naked poisons are devastating. The Golden Knights being on the board at all times to get that miner back on top over and over is just impossible to keep up with.
Yeah, and now that we have the tower down to 132, is he going to try and choose to poison or defend? We see the dash coming in just a second. Not even going to dash, and just going to use the bomb tower. A great defense once again. And Faust starts off the set 1-0.
And you see there at the bottom of your screen, you saw Keita with a bit of a smile on his face, just going, what was that, man? How? You know what? If I was him, I'd give myself a pat on the back, because he actually made that game incredibly competitive. It was still a few hundred HP that separated the two, several hundred HP, but we know how quickly that can happen with 8 Royal Hogs coming down the lane. Faust doing an excellent job of keeping those Golden Knights on the board. That 3-card cycle, knowing when to naked poison, and relentless pressure with the miner. Let's see who takes game number 2 in our first set. Faust up 1. Drill breakers to start.
Yeah, extremely aggressive. We do see the arrows on defense alongside the skeleton army. Faust already used both of his win conditions. It's likely just going to be, I mean, are we seeing the Fireball Inferno Tower deck, or is there
with Bandit, is that right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's kind of an, I mean, I feel like I see that deck once a competition, so I mean, we could be seeing it here. We do see the bats though. And Katassian has yet to play one of his bigger cards, Archers, coming out from Katassian.
I was just gonna say, shocked we haven't seen Archers so far, considered maybe one of the most broken cards in the game, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I love playing with them. Yeah, we'll call it that, but I'm not mad about it. But here we go, Archers coming out for the first time. And remember, this is the in-game duel format, so this kind of goes to what you were just talking about, AC. Decks that maybe aren't as relevant or haven't been as relevant in a while might start popping up, and a really nice prediction there with the Skarmy on top. This is a lot of trouble here for Faust. Loaded up Skeleton King, very, very healthy. Mortar does get connected, and he doesn't get the ability off. That feels like a bit of a misstep there. Maybe distracted by the wall breakers and let that Dark Goblin get too much value.
Yeah, and I think we also do have to give credit to Faust, because I don't know if he had the opportunity to arrows everything. He might have had to wait, and it was kind of just an awkward spot for him. So I really like how Faust did not get overwhelmed by that push. A lot of players would have, you know, placed the bats right on top of the Skeleton King, and then the arrows would have come down, taken out every single troop, and then he could have lost the game in 22 seconds. So just very smart play by Faust, and he still has the damage lead, especially with this Dark Goblin connecting.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate timing there for Faust. Keita would have been in a lot more trouble had that Dark Goblin stayed behind the Valkyrie like he was intending and those bats, but instead still gets a ton of damage as another healthy Skeleton King is crossing the bridge. This time the ability does come down before he gets taken off the board. And a Dark Goblin in the back, putting in work. Nice arrows there, getting some good value.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he wants to try and fireball or if he's just going to use the Valk. We see, I mean, this is just another, way for the pros to show why they're pros, because he plays the Fly Machine aggressively, so that way he can attack everything on the bridge, but then he doesn't place it on top of the mortar. So just, I love how both of these players have played in this entire set, honestly.
Yeah, this has been a pretty interesting matchup day, though, for Keita in terms of game one, having the Bomb Tower, the Golden Knight, the NATO, and of course those minor poisons. And then here in game number 2, I mean, he has a lot of great responses to the Skeleton King, that Dark Goblin putting in work, but that Dark Goblin, there's no 3-card cycle, so we'll see if Keita can try to abuse that. And getting some great damage in here. You know how I feel about mortars connecting, AC.
Yeah. I mean, this is super fun for you. For me, on the other hand, it's fun. I'm definitely not going to use the word super in front of it. Right there, though, I can give
arrows.
credit right there. That is a beautiful arrows. Gets the tower down to 432, and just brilliance from Katassian right there.
I mean, this is exactly what you were talking about at the top of the show, AC. It's just the experience, not getting overwhelmed, not getting in your head, staying poised enough to make those predictive plays this late in game number 2 when you know you could be sent down to the lower bracket, and you know in that lower bracket you're going to have to run into Mo or Mohammed. You don't know. I mean, both the brackets are kind of horrifying in that sense, but really great plays here by Keita.
Yeah, just has to not get predicted, and that's exactly what happens. 84-26, and the miner gets the final strike on the tower. 1-1. Katassian with a great game number 2. I mean, this is just one of those times where you're like 80% sure you're going to win the game, but you can guarantee a win if you get one prediction. And right there, he chose to use that prediction. He got the arrows on top of the guards. I mean, I've loved the gameplay coming out from Katassian in the first 2 games.
So you guys got a quick little view of what cards have been used and what is available if you're able to do that in your head as quickly as these guys have to. Nice archers come down here for Faust as that mortar will connect, but an E-Giant right into it. Archers off the board and mortar out of play. Faust could be in trouble here.
Yeah, we see him use the goblins and the fire spirit. He is back to another mortar. Okay.
Wow,
that is the quickest cyclage I've ever seen. And right there, I mean, had he wanted to, he also had the archers already back.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really great point that you make there. Now Keita on the defensive himself. He goes barrel plus, not wanting to use the cannon. And there's the King Tower activation. So Very interesting spot for both of these guys. You know, I heard Morton do a video on this deck. I believe, you know, this is that Golden Knight plus Goblins. I can't remember what all is in it. I'm not a big E-Giant player, but what he kept saying about this deck is as the game moves on, you don't actually need to play better than your opponent. You can just outcycle them and use those NATOs to abuse them and keep those E-Giants on the board. So we'll see if Faust can do enough damage here in single and double, because once he gets to triple, I think he could be in trouble. We'll find out.
Yeah, that's actually incredibly massive that he got the damage he did with the Royal Hogs. He's down to 1574. I mean, that is perfectly reasonable to Earthquake out. And once you get to a perfectly reasonable kind of position when you're running these mortar decks with these Royal Hogs, like, I mean, a perfectly reasonable is the same thing as a prime position when you're looking at these mortar Earthquake decks.
Yeah, you know, and with this this deck coming from Keita, I got to admit, as a mortar player, I'm still not that intimidated by it, even though I know it is incredibly powerful. The cycle, like you were talking about at the top, even in single, Faust was able to get that second mortar down right away. Here's another one on the board. It seems like they're always on the board, and this is really tough for Keita. And that's a great placement by Faust. You see, he goes mortar to the inside to the left so that the E-Giant will be pulled to the center and then to the second mortar, still playing defense while creating offensive pressure. And those are just brilliant plays.
Yeah, and right here, he's going to have to NATO up and use his ability.
Wow.
And I'm not totally sure. I think one of the Royal Hogs was able to bite its little snout on top of the tower, but 1073, 1500 HP separating the two players. I mean, as well as Katasian's played, I mean, a lot of the credit goes to Faust and just his deck picking and his solutions with his gameplay. And I mean, right here, something crazy would have to happen. But I mean, it's certainly possible. He's starting to build these massive, massive pushes, and this is how he wins the game.
See what he wants to do with that Golden Knight. Does it come down late? Does it go at the bridge? Does it go opposite lane? Archers are close enough. Now trying to look for that NATO, but should be back in cycle. High Mighty Miner there, and there's the NATO. There's the connection. And just like that, Keita in the lead. No, E-Giant doesn't get the second shot, but this is exactly what I was talking about, AC. This deck can punish you instantly.
We see the bomber come down. How many Hogs are going to be able to reach the tower? 691, not a single shot right there. So getting aggressive with the archers plus the fire spirit, going to be able to take that out with the log. And he's going to be able to get aggressive again if he chooses to do so.
Hogs. Yep.
Oh.
Maybe high cannon? No, he just eats the damage. Can he eat that much damage? I understand he's trying to save the NATO. I understand he's trying to save the elixir for the lightning, and he had to take damage for it. This is kind of make or break here for Keita. Nice archers offset to the left so the Golden Knight cannot dash on the correct tower.
The Golden Knight is able to get to the archers. 956 plus the lightning. Oh, wow. My goodness.
Look at the celebration from Keita, just working through adversity all 3 games. I mean, game 1, that is almost a 100-0 matchup. Game number 2, he was able to bring things back just a little bit. And then game number 3, I don't know what that matchup is on paper. Like I said, as a mortar player, I know I'm trying to win in single and double elixir. Keita pushed it to triple, sacrifices some HP, and oh my gosh, AC, what a great way to start ours.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, Keita played such a brilliant set right there. I loved his patience, just his wherewithal, just how to play that exact matchup. And I was thinking, oh, you know, this is just too much damage to be giving up. You can't really get away with that. But he certainly proved me wrong. The E-Giants, I mean, he's not looking for damage. He's kind of looking for those positive elixir traits. I just really liked how he played at every single situation.
And Mortar's able to win in game number 2, but isn't able to take it in game number 3. Keita here doing some great work. It was a lot of adversity in game number 2, but then game number 3, everyone knew it was coming. You and I knew it was coming. Faust knew it was coming. That Golden Knight NATO combo, and that was the first big swing there to really kind of even things up. And then here it is at the end. E-Giant on the tower, no mortar in cycle, no elixir in the bank. Lightning comes down, and Keita with the massive celebration. You love to see it. Our former world finalist with Fav Gaming showing up here in set number 1, but AC, there is a bit of a asterisk, a caveat, if you will. He has to play either Morton or Mo next, which is our second matchup. But first, let's get through some of this info. This is only from the last game, as you can see. Even though he's playing E-Giant, look at that average elixir cost. only 3 across the board, 8 to get all the way back around, and Keita didn't really even use his cannon as the game went on.
Yeah, and I mean, he got to the exact cards that he needed to get to every single time. I mean, whether it be the NATO plus Golden Knight, whether it be the Bomber plus Cannon, all his defenses were so strong. But really, and this is the one thing that I kind of have been waiting for since I saw one of the replays, I do not really enjoy Faust's Game 2 deck. I think it was the Game 2, the one without the champion. I think it's just an old meta deck, and I don't think it's that strong, even when it was in the meta.
Yeah, so here we go. This is what we got in game number 3, I believe. Yes, this is what we just saw. Keita there playing the E-Giant, Faust playing the Hogs, Earthquake. You know, even though he found himself in a decent matchup here in game 3 and an exceptional matchup in game number 1, how do you feel about that deck that he just ran? It's not really one that you see too often, but you understand the synergy behind it with the Royal Hogs, the EQ, and of course Mighty Miner being probably the worst champion to pick in that moment because he's going up against E-Giant. Was it just a matchup situation, AC, or was that deck kind of not excellent like what you thought about game number 2's deck?
You know, I think that deck can be perfect if you play it perfectly. And if you don't, all the mistakes are going to compound very fast. I was looking at one of the final defensive interactions, and I kind of felt like Faust overextended on defense. He used too much elixir, and a lot of the time he was going all in. He was going completely flat broken elixir. He had the 3 elixir archers, and then he placed the Royal Hogs behind him just to try and get that one more push. And a lot of his defenses, he had 4 elixir, places the mortar, and then has nothing else. So I think it really comes down to his mistakes over the deck's mistake.
Yeah, we saw a little bit in game number 2. Even that Dart Goblin getting on tower behind the Valkyrie, behind the Bats would have been absolutely huge for Faust. He might have been able to 2-0 it, but he's sent down to the lower bracket. We'll revisit him later today. And of course, remember guys, double elimination, still a couple people will be eliminated here today. Faust already up on the chopping block as Keita is moving on. And as we were just talking about, Morton and Mohamed Light, our next matchup. Winner plays Keita, loser has to go down to the lower bracket and play against Faust. AC, I mean, technically, of the last 4 matches we've seen in CRL, 3 of them have been Mohamed Light versus Morton, right? We got the double matchup in World Finals, and then here we are, match number 2.
Yep, and then, I mean, I never want to root on a player's demise, but I mean, I feel like we just have to root for, I mean, obviously one of these guys to win, and then one of the guys to somehow be able to play. I want to see them play against each other at least another time in this tournament, and hopefully a third somehow, some way, because this is just brilliant getting to watch these 2 battle it out. And so far, Mohamed Light has had the clear edge in this matchup. Morton just seems to be a step behind against this man right here.
Yeah, and you know, Mohamed Light, you see him celebrating. There's Mama Mo Light, just a wonderful soul. It was really great to meet her in Finland, and just, you know, Mohamed Light, he's our Jordan, right? He is the guy in Clash Royale. He came in, people talked about Surgical Goblin for years. People talked about Morton for a really long time. Elsiop was another one of them. People talked about Ruben, right? There's been so many great players that have come and gone in Clash Royale, but Mohamed Light and Morton are 2 of the most consistent since day 1. But Mo, he just has that it factor. He has that edge. There's something about the way that he plays. You talk about other pros watching him play. SB, I think, had a tweet. Whenever I watch Mohamed Light play, it makes me want to quit playing. And it makes sense because he's just that good. 72% win rate against the 65. Ice Spirit and Tornado, most used cards just in the qualifier, and a lot of tower damage from both of these guys, showing that they probably did a ton of dual lane pressure, which is something that Morton's talked about since day 1. No matter what he's running, unless it's completely against that archetype, he loves to keep pressure up in both lanes to bait out those mistakes. AC, you and I both went with Mo. The interesting thing here is you talk about Samuel Basoto last year, right? You win that golden ticket in the first round, and then what? Morton is one of those guys, he's going to play every single day, he's going to stream every day no matter what. Mohamed Light, on the other hand, he's got university, he's got some changes in his life going on. Does winning a golden ticket hurt either of these guys early on, or is it only good?
Well, I promise you it does not hurt Morton. That man will grind no matter what. So we can just get that completely out of the way. On the flip side, you know, that is certainly something you actually have to watch out for Muhammad Light. And it's just like, we're basically looking for reasons to not say positive things about Muhammad Light. Because, I mean, clearly he's probably just going to be perfectly fine with winning a golden ticket and still grinding. But it's nice to not say like overly buttery things about him nonstop. So I feel like I have to say Muhammad Light should watch out.
just because it's maybe the only chance you'll get to say it all season long. So here we go, Morton top of your screen, Mo at the bottom, and Mo doing Mo things. He's got, you know, 4 of the strongest cards in the meta in his deck in the Golden Knight, Miner, Poison, and of course Ice Spirit. Ice Spirit is the most broken of all the spirits. There was a moment there where it looked like Fire Spirit might take the throne, but Ice Spirit has ran away with it. And Phoenix comes down to kill the egg of the other Phoenix. Monk and Phoenix, not as popular as they were, obviously, when they came right into the game, but in a decent spot. I know some people are still talking about the Monk ability and, you know, whether or not it should still be active when it's frozen, for instance, with an Ice Spirit like we were just talking about. But Phoenix seems to be in a pretty good spot now, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed with just how healthy, how healthy certain things of the meta have been. I mean, it's kind of impossible to have a healthy meta, so even just, like, positive things is always just something to look at. But right here, Muhammad Light, he's going to be running, in game number 1, the same deck that I believe Faust ran in game number 1, and I just really like this deck. It's something about the Phoenix and the Bomb Tower and just the crazy defensive capabilities right there. And a nice lightning block. I don't know if he was trying to do that, but I think it was pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, what? That's, again, like Mo doing Mo things. Why? Why did that happen? But apparently it worked out. Firecracker on the board for Morton, which actually makes me pretty happy. I love Firecracker. I'm happy to see that she's getting a little bit more playtime, especially at the highest level. And another lightning cycle in here from Morton, 22-19 to 23-72. We'll see if that actually ends up paying off, excuse me, while that Golden Knight works up the left-hand lane.
I'm not huge on like looking at player reactions because I mean so many players are just like not animated at all or overly animated. But right there, Muhammad Light looks slightly annoyed that his Phoenix keeps getting lightninged by Morton. He just kind of raised his eyebrows on that.
I gotta say, there is something incredibly frustrating about getting rocket cycled out of a game. Like, you hear people talk about it for years now. I gotta tell you, I hate getting lightning cycled out of a game even more. And maybe it's because I'm a Mortar player, so those lightnings become so impactful. But yeah, getting lightning out of games, incredibly frustrating. And like you said, you could see Mo starting to get, not tilted by it, but eyebrow raised, if you will.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, like I'm totally in the same boat. Mine is just because I always respect players that do things that are considered annoying, and I always respect those kind of players.
What?
So, yeah,
Why?
I feel like it's just it's fun to see. You know, that's people playing the game how they want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good point. Play the game how you want to play it. You don't always have to follow the meta here. And Morton just keeping up the pressure. Mo having to spend an arm and a leg every single time. But that is one thing that Muhammad Light does more, better than almost anyone that's played the game, is defend efficiently and then get back on offense.
Yeah, and right here, Firecracker. I mean, it's just getting so much value. The Goblin split right there is pretty solid. But I mean, he's got the tower down to almost sub 1,000, not just quite. But that is a really good dash. NATO away is not going to really work. In 30 seconds left, he can get aggressive.
And look at that, right into another Minor Goblin send. Monk comes down last second. No goblins on the tower, I believe, as this Royal Giant trying to make things happen. Bottom of your screen, 16 seconds remain. There comes the lightning down to 378. Muhammad Light knows that it's pretty much gone and done as a Minor Poison comes down. Morton just needed to make sure no more damage comes in. 378, 480. There's the lightning, tries to get the block, does Muhammad Light. Beautiful play. Morton takes game number 1. A good game comes out from Muhammad Light, bottom of your screen, and you can see Mo, he doesn't have that classic most smile that he has when he's kind of rolling through opponents. And you talked about, AC, I think he got a little bit bothered by those lightnings coming down, and of course losing game number 1 with a deck that I think he probably feels he should not lose with, period.
Yeah, and I think that's just a testament to the grinder mentality from Morton. I was watching one of his YouTube videos recently, and he was talking about how he used to be so bad at this golem deck. And then he kept talking about it, and he was like, oh, well, you know, I lost this matchup 30 times in a row, so I kept playing, and now I beat it every once in a while. And it's just, a lot of these players have the mentality where, oh, raw ability, I can win this matchup, I'm better, you know, it's going to happen. Morton on the other side, he will find those mistakes. He will actively search out just what is the one way I can win this matchup, and then he wins in that manner. So that's why he won game number 1.
AC, I know you're a big NBA fan. I'm assuming you saw that Giannis quote that's been trending.
I have not.
You have not. You need to Google it right now, because I can't say it on air because there is a little bit of words that we can't say on air in there, but the mentality. Giannis talks about not being as talented as KD, not being as talented as Steph Curry, but he can grind like no one else. And Mohamed Light, for lack of a better, or excuse me, Morton, for lack of better terms, he's the Giannis of our league. He's incredibly talented, he's incredibly seasoned, he's incredibly respected, but it's because of his grind more than anything else.
He's obsessed. He's desperate. I love that. I think that like perfectly just explains Morton right there. And,
yeah, I thought you'd like that, especially
yeah.
if you're such a Giannis stan.
Yes, yes. I was thinking about wearing the Giannis jersey to day 1 of CRL, but I figured I'd go.
I'm glad that you did it.
Yeah,
I'm glad you went with the Mini P.E.K.K.A instead.
Slightly more professional.
So Mohamed Light, I believe, just finished with an exceptionally high, I think he finished with 3 in the top 10 in this last Ultimate Challenge leaderboard. And I think, did he also get number 1?
It might have been him, and it might have been a guy named Pedro.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what it was. I need to look more closely, but I do believe 3 of Mohamed Light's accounts were in the top 10, which just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I guess we can't really talk on and on about Morton's ability to grind when he finishes number 1 on 1,000 different accounts as well. Maybe it's just 2 great players that are just playing a really good game, and so I kind of want to watch right now.
About the game? Yeah, game right now, pretty interesting. It's not been a stalemate, but as you guys can see by the towers, 24-81 to 24-14, as both of these guys just trying to feel each other out. Royal Hogs bottom of your screen with Fisherman and Giant Skeleton. Look at that. Flying Machine sneaks on through. Morton misses it. Now gets an Ice Spirit on top, but arrows come down. Mighty Miner is there just in time, but still, damage is done. 1658 to 24-14. Big swing there by Mo Light.
Yeah, massive amount of damage, and right there, I mean, that is the difference between winning a game because of prediction arrows and then potentially losing the, not losing the game, but losing the ability to just win the game outright when, you know, just one player makes one different choice. And Morton is always going to make the best choice in these kind of scenarios. He's never going to play the card that can get arrowed off, so he's all, you know, just even making that prediction isn't always effective. So really good awareness by Morton to not allow his goblins to get chipped off the field by those arrows.
Yeah, love that point that you're making there. Morton is a guy that from day 1 has always varied up his defenses for that exact reason. And honestly, because I think he streams so much, he deals with such high pressure all the time, he's still able to make those heads-up plays in those moments, I'd say 80+% of the time, 90+% of the time.
And so right here, I was thinking that he wasn't going to have a big spell, or that it was going to be Earthquake or something along the lines of that. But, you know, he has the Miner, he has the Poison, the Log. Even though this has been a weird game so far, I feel like Morton, you know, I mean, with Triple Elixir, everything gets so weird. You throw 18,000 Royal Hogs on the board, and one of them is going to get through. Right there, Royal Hogs gets it down to 2101, but I mean, Morton's just in an okay spot. He can win if he holds on.
Yeah, you see this high poison up here again, making those smart decisions to protect as the Royal Hogs come down behind the giant skeleton. Could be trouble here. Musketeer working down the other lane. Flying Machine needs to get picked up. There it is this time. Arrows come down. Nothing there for the Flying Machine. Look at that Ice Spirit timing. AC absolutely perfect as a second Musketeer is crossing the bridge.
No shots on the tower. We see the Musketeer going down the board, but the Fisherman and the tower are locked onto the Musketeer, so he can just hold on arrows. It's not going to be enough. That's going to be a 2-0 sweep.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, Morton. What a way to start the day right there for him. 2-0 against Mo.
I'm going to turn off my DM notifications and block Morton because we both picked Mo, and Morton comes out firing here in game number 2, takes down our defending world champion. Beautiful 2-0. You saw it at the very end of the game too there. You saw Mo nod and you saw Morton nod, and two very, very different moments of acknowledgement there. Mo knows he's going down below, which he's worked through lower brackets before. Morton going up against Keita now. AC, what a great first 2 sets of the day.
Yeah, and with that, I'm fairly certain both of us are 0-2 in our caster predictions.
I was just going to say, crap, we both picked Faust also. Yeah. This is terrible. We got to stop down.
So, yeah, I mean, we're seeing some great games, and no one can predict what's going to happen. I mean, I like to believe that no one can predict that. Maybe some people easily predicted it. But right here, game number 1, I mean, Morton, just early recognition. Hey, how do I win this game? I lightning cycle, and then I get 1 or 2 RGs on the tower. He figures it out. How do I win this game in game number 2? Oh, I defend, triple elixir. Yep. I just need to get 1 miner on the tower and then poison him out. I mean, he's so calculated with every single move, and it's just such a joy to watch.
I know. We've been watching Morton for 6 seasons now, and he has always been impressive, and he just continues to get better and better, and right now showing the best in the world that he's still here to stay. Better be thinking about me when those World Finals come around the corner. I'm assuming that both of them will be at World Finals based off of either a golden ticket or the leaderboard. It seems impossible unless one of them just stopped playing. And talking about number 1 finishes for Mo Light on ladder, it was Morton that just finished that tournament in first place. 40-4. Pretty incredible stuff there for Morton, the German, who will move on to round number 2 in that upper bracket. What a bit of fun. I mean, yeah, average cost. I mean, this makes a lot of sense, right? Mo's deck was just a little bit more expensive. Makes sense for Morton, a little bit faster, quicker. You know, that's one of those dirty cycles with that Mighty Miner on the board, too. He's able to just get as many poisons down wherever he needs, whether it's defensively, offensively. And then you can almost always ensure a little bit of tower damage with that miner. So a great start to the day. We go the distance in set number 1. Set number 2, a bit of an upset. You and I, terrible with predictions, but AC... Match number 3, if we do check in with our bracket, is where you and I have actually split our decision. You're going haciel, I'm going Sandbox. We've both been doing terribly.
Yeah,
so,
one of us has to be right. So this is great news for us.
haciel and Sandbox coming up next, but you can see there Keita and Morton, I believe, will be our second to last matchup of the day. We'll revisit Faust and Mo here in just a few. Faust got a lot ahead of him, a lot to work out on his plate. And of course, Keita probably looking at Morton. They've played against each other before. They've known each other for a long time. Should be a super fun one there of match 7. But Sandbox versus haciel. This should be a good one, AC. You know, I was saying Sandbox because I'm really excited about what he did at World Finals. I think that he's a guy that hopefully is hitting his rhythm. It did seem like at World Finals, some of the issues that he could have struggled with were maybe the confidence of his own gameplay. But as the days worked, or as we worked through those days, and as he got further along in the tournament, you could see his confidence really, really building. So, you know, that's also being in person in the biggest stage in the entire world. Now he's back at home, back where he loves to play, and I think that's a dangerous man on the right side of the screen to go up against. But haciel, a phenom from 2021, pretty quiet in 2022, but he's back, and hopefully he's here to stay. Why do you love him so much?
I mean, I think it's just his willingness to use whatever he believes is the best deck for that specific game. It comes down to, you know, his deck choices. I think it was either Expo or Golem or both in round number 1 of our finals from 2021. And I mean, it's just, when you watch those kind of players, if they even get an okay matchup, it just gives them so much confidence in game number 2 and game number 3 to just trust in their instincts, trust that, you know, the game plan that it came in with is the correct game plan, and it just sets them up to play beautifully. It's so fun to watch one of those kind of players heat up.
And haciel, bottom of your screen, Sandbox at the top. And he wouldn't be my brother from another mother if he didn't text me during broadcast to tell me that he picked Morton. Rich Slayton decided to let both of us know that he's smarter than both of us. Even though he's not here, he picked Morton to beat Mo. And Rich, whatever, dude. Top of your screen, is this possible? No. Okay, I was like, are we really going to see 2.6 in CRL from Sandbox? But Earthquake comes in with the Monk, and that quickly goes out the window for all those. Wow, this is incredibly aggressive. And the Monk goes behind, so no ricochet? Reflect from the cannon cart in play.
And this is a really cool snowball. He's actually going to snowball the... oh my goodness, he's going to snowball the Monk behind the tower. That way the cannon cart is able to lock on. Forces out the lock from Sandbox, so a really great play from haciel. And this is what I was talking about. It's when these kind of players get confidence, but also this is just not the deck that we've been seeing in a game number 1 so far today. It's tended to be the quick cycles, the miners, the poisons. And so to use this game number 1, this is really, really cool from haciel.
Yeah, and I got to admit, I love that playstyle from haciel. He is a guy that is not shy to just go all in. He saw his opening and he took it. Love that play to keep the Monk behind the tower. Love the snowball just like you're talking about. But to give Sandbox credit, he's about 1,000 HP down. I probably would have gotten 3 crowned in that moment.
Yeah. I probably would have lost more, but 3 crowned, that's... you would have had to play that pretty poorly.
Look, man, I won our 1v1, okay?
All right. This is... I don't know how this happened. I need something that I can use against you two. Right here, Earthquake on defense, plus the Musketeer going to be able to clean up everything nicely. Gets the tower down to 1922. I mean, now that the surprise factor is out of the way from haciel, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to defend. The Musketeers plus the Earthquakes, it's always going to clean it up nicely. And also, Musketeer plus Cannon Cart, this Monk reflection is going to be massive, and it's going to be so difficult for him to get past that.
And I got to admit, you know, haciel maybe being a little overly aggressive, but it's hard to hate on it too much because he has basically no damage taken, and Sandbox has already lost half of his tower HP. I mean, I know you've been in those games before where it feels like your opponent is going hyper aggressive from the opening, and for some reason, your cycle, your gameplay, whatever it is, just keeps you out of it. It keeps you, I mean, that's why we talk so much about people having to reset their cycles, but as of right now, Sandbox doing a pretty good job, but just cannot seem to find an opening.
Yeah, right here, the cannon will take the aggro of the hog, and it does get one shot. But right here, I mean, it's just so weird for haciel because the reason why we've seen him get so aggressive is because his deck is just kind of odd. That's why we're seeing him go in with a Fire Spirit plus the Graveyard instead of, you know, a Knight plus Graveyard or a Giant plus Graveyard. He doesn't have the right response to be able to go in with appropriate pushes.
And again, this goes back to the format that we're in, right, AC? You have to build those 4 decks before you start the set. You have to build 32 separate unique cards into 4 decks. And that's why you get some of these interesting decks early on because you're kind of worried about games 2 and game number 3. Whereas in the dual format, let's say at World Finals, you can kind of plug and play as you go along. All right, I'm going to start with this deck. I'm very good with it. Okay, they played this. Those cards are out. Now I'm going to play this deck. So haciel finding himself with a pretty unique deck in game number 1, maybe to try to feel out his opponent and get him with that shock value like he did early on. But Sandbox is seasoned. Sandbox knows what's going on. And like you said, AC, I think he might have figured out or cracked the code, at least as of right now. 1149 to 1617.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as we see the hogs in the back, I mean, that's either the start of something special or the start of somebody losing a game. But when Sandbox does it, I just have to assume it's got to be special. Cannon should come out, and he's also going to need the snowball as well. That was a very poorly placed cannon, and it's going to force out the arrows in response as well. 25 seconds left, though, and 600 HP separating the 2 players.
This is a tiltable game, I feel like, if you're Sandbox and you lose this one. Going all in here. Now, Monk pushes the Hog. Sandbox called it there. Monk pushes the Hog. Monk taking on the tower. Hog gets in. Not gonna be enough, though. Love the fancy footwork there by Sandbox, but too little, too late. Haciel takes game number 1. The hyper-aggression pays off. And honestly, AC, not only does he get, money in the bank for winning that game, but also this is a super weird deck. And I feel like that opens up the meta. Picking up a win with that deck and those cards, that's a big time advantage for Haciel.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be so massive for him. I mean, you know, you have the Miner, the Archers, the Phoenix, all available to him in games 2 and games 3. So just a great start. And then on the flip side, I mean, Sandbox, I feel like he played really well in that game. It was just such an odd game where he took way too much damage early on, and then he had to battle back. But I feel like overall, I mean, if I was to grade it, I would say like 85% when, you know, if we subtracted that one early on play. So just a weird game number 1, and those are the games that you need to win if you're ACL, which he absolutely did, which is just a great start for him.
Sandbox looking to bounce back in game number 2, our 6th place finisher at our World Finals in Helsinki. It was a treat to hang out with him and also get the stamp of approval on my kimchi jjigae. As you guys don't know, that's a Korean dish, and Sandbox being Korean, love to see that he approves. A guy that's been number 4 on ladder, but it's been a while. It was October of 2022 when he had that finish, but not too long, you know, just a few months ago.
And right here, game number 2, I mean, Sandbox has played well, and Haciel, it just feels like he's overextended quite a bit. In that last interaction, Haciel had 0 elixir when Sandbox had 8, and you know, mind you, he did have, you know, a 30% Monk going down the field or something like that, but an 8 elixir difference is something that I don't know if I've seen that in single elixir in a pretty long time. That was an odd thing to see him down already by that much.
And doesn't end up actually taking a whole lot of damage for that statistic, but a very interesting one that you point out. Yeah, 8 elixir in the hole in any situation other than triple is usually pretty devastating, but 28-32 to 26-42. Haciel trying to build a push here. Monk up front. He comes down at the bridge. And a nice counter push.
He is going to be able to attack the tower real quick, and that's going to be free reign for the Golden Knight. If he doesn't beat, oh my goodness, that's going to be a late Royal Delivery. The Golden Knight will be able to get the tower down to 1487 with the help of the Goblin Stab. Right there, I mean, Sandbox is in complete control at this point. Just, I mean, with his deck, with the Ghost plus the Ewiz, he's going to be able to stop the Monk every single time, and I like this. I mean, this is exactly what you have to do. Swap lanes, see if something special happens, but I think it should be just too late. Sandbox is in such a great position now.
Nice high skellies there to pick up the aggro from the Inferno Tower, and yeah, that's something that you hear all the best Hog players talk about, AC, is that you have to be able to, or willing to change lanes, and Golden Knight doing what he does, getting on top of tower down to 354. Haciel has to chalk this one up as a loss, and I think just reset his mental.
Yeah, the Monk actually pushed the Golden Knight onto the tower, so I think the Monk recognizes that the game is over too. And right there, 1-1, a great bounce back from Sandbox. It just felt like we were 6 seconds in and he was controlling the game. That was one of the quickest games, not in terms of length, but in terms of just, it just fell over as soon as we started.
You see Sandbox there taking a deep breath, and that was actually something he worked on in Finland quite a bit. Again, to calm those nerves. Even though he's at home, there's still a lot of pressure here. This is a CRL monthly final, 16K on the line and that golden ticket. But you see him working on that breath work. It's something that he did there in Finland. He got some coaching on, and honestly, staying dialed in. We saw Haciel kind of, I don't want to say he looked tilted. I don't know him well enough, but at the end of game 2, he definitely looked more frustrated than I'd say Sandbox did at the end of game number 1. And that goes back to the conversation we were having at the top of the day with experience. Keita versus Faust, the experience in these situations when you're down, it really comes through. Tough NATO there.
Yeah, going to be able to take the archers back, but right here, I mean, it's again one of those situations where haciel just has 0 elixir, it feels like, where Sandbox is just completely controlling that. Sandbox with a 250 HP lead right now, but he does have the mortar plus the miner, and it looks like haciel is just going to be using the bomb tower version, and so the mortar version with the more pressure is always going to have the advantage in this mirror match. So just a really great spot for Sandbox, as long as he keeps the consistent pressure up, and then, you know, once haciel spends 8 elixir on defense against the mortar, that's when he goes in with the minor poisons. So great spot for him.
I was just going to say, I would have loved to see a prediction on top of that bomb tower. You called out the bomb tower was the 8th card before haciel played it. I think Sandbox probably knew as well, but when you go for a prediction that early on, he doesn't play it, that can already put yourself in a really rough spot for the next 30 seconds or so. So like the play, the patient play by Sandbox would have been nice though. Hindsight is always 20/20. The only thing I think Sandbox really has to worry about here, AC, and it's something that I struggle with when using guards and archers against Golden Knight, is there's just so many small units on the board. It's kind of impossible to lock down the distance exactly 100% accurately. And when you have guards down, you have archers down, you have that mighty miner, maybe even the mortar, that chain from the Golden Knight gets really, really hard to predict.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see how Sandbox, you know, spaces out his troops and applies pressure, because it's going to be this mix where, oh, he only applied a little bit of pressure, well then I have enough to NATO and Golden Knight dash. Or he applied so much pressure, but he placed all his troops bunched up. So it's going to be really cool to see how this game evolves, because it really comes down to, can he get a Golden Knight dash where he can make some sort of comeback that way.
Sandbox just selling out at the bridge, baiting out the NATO there from haciel. haciel just responds with an Ice Spirit plus Miner, and haciel will actually take the lead with that push there. 1985 to 1856 poison coming in as a Miner plus Phoenix goes down in the right-hand lane. Archers at the bridge. Sandbox doing a lot of kind of bridge spammy moves with this deck, and I don't know if that's the best way to go, AC. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan right there. I mean, it just feels like it feels like he needs to sort of build like 10 elixir pushes, whether it be mortar plus minor poison, or you know, archers plus the drill plus the miner. It just needs to be more, and you can't really be placing those just directly at the bridge.
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of feels like a situation, and I know this isn't the case because this deck is so popular from Sandbox, that it feels like he just knows this deck is good, but he hasn't played with it. And I know that's not the case, but he just seems a little out of sorts with it. Like you said, there's other ways to build pushes. We'll see if he can kind of tighten that up in these final 60 seconds as we get into triple elixir. haciel is going to start cycling madly here with the Golden Knight on the board. Want to get as many minor poisons down as possible. Golden Knight gets some damage in. No prediction here to pick up that bomb tower. Would have loved to see it, because you know the Golden Knights right there either don't play the mortar or defend the mortar in that situation, in my opinion.
And right here, getting the tower down to 700 HP. I mean, this is such a big advantage right here. The bomb tower is just putting in so much work in this matchup overall. And I'm so impressed with how he played this game number 2. But I think it really does come down to, I mean, I think you're correct. I don't think Sandbox played this all too well. And I mean, haciel, he's going to come out with a game 3 victory. And I did not see that happening when we saw these decks.
Yeah, no, me neither. I actually thought Sandbox had the edge here. I thought he was going to be able to lock things down. You know, that whole situation that we talked about of, you know, the Golden Knight dashing on the tower because of the archers and guards didn't really come into play that much. It was just really more about Sandbox not being able to create the pressure that he needed to. Just not being able to, I mean, I've played the deck that he's playing, and I can't tell you, I mean, obviously, don't take tips from me over Sandbox, but I can't tell you how many times I did pushes where it was just like, Phoenix is crossing the bridge, send in a miner, send in goblins, send in archers, and just hope something good happens, especially when you're going up against Bomb Tower, Golden Knight, and NATO. It just felt like it was a little incorrectly put together there by Sandbox, who is now down in the lower bracket. Anything that stood out to you, AC?
You know, it's okay. So one of the things that stood out to me is something that is kind of unavoidable, but it's always enjoyable to watch when it's not happening to me. And it just felt like every time he was using the minor poison on offense and Sandbox was trying to stop it with guards, just felt like the guards were misplaced. And this happens every few competitions. I think there was one where like Javi didn't predict or did predict like 8 minors in a row or something. So it's always a joy to watch as a competitor, but when you are Sandbox and you miss another minor, it is the most tilting thing ever, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah, and it's tough too, because when you look at the responses to get on top of that minor, how do you want to do it, right? Because if you pre-cycle the guards, you're just going to give poison value, and then he can send in the minor afterwards. But then if you're using the mighty minor, so you're not giving poison value, then you don't really have your tank anywhere on the board at all. So Sandbox just having a difficult time defending there. And like you said, even if he was just able to pick up 1 or 2 shots from those guards and the minor, it would have really helped him out as we got into triple elixir. He wouldn't have felt so much pressure to have to defend so intensely. But haciel doing kind of what he did, and something that I missed to see is just that hyper aggressiveness, excuse me. It paid off in game number 1, and then he kind of slowed things down as we moved throughout the set, and you love to see it. A little bit of maturity there, if you will.
Yeah, I was very pleased with the game 3 turnaround. It's always great when you see one of those players, or you know, just any kind of player, play really well, kind of take a huge step back, and then play really well. That, I mean, you talked about it, I think last set, where, you know, it's all about the mental fortitude and can you bounce back? Can you still focus on what you need to focus on? And it's clear that he was able to do so right there. And with that, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. I am now 1 and 2 in the caster predictions.
I'm going to mute. There's my mute. Can I mute him? Do I have the power to do that? Here he goes. We take a look at the bracket. Can I change my 4th prediction then, at least, so I can maybe even things? Whatever. There's more important things at hand. Keita and Morton are going to be our 7th matchup, the first one there in that upper bracket. haciel waiting on the winner of Ilion and Minnie. And, of course, we are getting one step closer to saying goodbye to our very first competitor in our first monthly final in 2023. Faust will be facing off against the GOAT, Mohamed Light. Sandbox waiting to see who loses this matchup between Minnie and Ilion. We are into our 4th match of the day. We're halfway through our first day of CRL 2023. I'm just so happy to be back. I love Clash. I love being here. And now that we've been doing this for so long, AC, we know these guys very well. They're good friends of ours now. Minnie and Ilion, maybe a little bit of a different story there. We know Minnie. We've known Minnie for a long time. Ilion, don't really know him. AC, is there anything that you can tell people at home? You know, you've got your ear to the ground. You know the pros better than I do. Is this a David versus Goliath matchup, even though the win rate doesn't say so? Or is this anyone's game?
Okay, so it's the... I've seen it happen 1,000 times where the opposing coach has to give credit to the opposing player. Yeah, you know, this team played really well, all that kind of stuff. But when I talked to the coach of Minnie and I said Ilion slash Chetty, he was like, oh yeah, he's really good. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So he is known among the people who stay in touch with the league, who have watched all the semi-pro competitions. People know who he is. So while Minnie is definitely going to be the clear favorite, it is certainly not going to be a David versus Goliath. It's going to be 2 great players going against each other.
Can we just take a moment to acknowledge the glory that is Minnie set up for his camera right now? I mean, it looks so clean and fresh. The jersey, you love to see it, but also he looks so comfortable.
I promise you, nothing felt out of the ordinary for me. I just saw him laying down, and I was like, all right, he just wants to work. He's ready for it. And right there, Minnie a little too relaxed, I had to say it. And Hog not getting brought to the King Tower. You see the frustration on his face, and I mean, for good reason. You cannot be giving up that kind of damage to a Mortar Hog Earthquake deck this early on.
I mean, he just went through an ocean of emotions. You were able to see it all in his face. You couldn't believe it. Then you saw the frustration. Then you saw the recognition of a seasoned vet going, okay, I cannot let this tilt me. You saw the deep breath, the reset. We'll see if it works out for Minnie, who was down by an arm and a leg early on. Does a King Tower activation happen? No, it does not, but I do love that he still went for it after that devastating miss on the NATO.
Yeah, just trying to bounce back right here. Archers to be able to take out the Phoenix. And we're seeing Phoenix quite a bit. I cannot say I'm surprised by that. It's just such a strong card right there. And tower down to 1,400. Wow. Another mistake from Minnie. He looks frustrated, but beyond belief. Law gonna come down, going to be able to take out the Phoenix. And I mean, with these kind of minor decks, you absolutely need to make, I mean, at most one mistake, but really, you're just looking to play a perfect game. It's not the most difficult deck ever, and so you absolutely need to play perfectly when you have opportunities to even just make mistakes, and it's just not what we saw in game number 1.
I might be crazy, but I think Minnie could have maybe used his ability. I mean, using it there, he still gets the same value, if not more, but I felt like he could have used his ability earlier on the Golden Knight and chained from the Mortar to the Mighty Miner to the tower, but he still gets some damage in anyway. The only thing I was going to say, AC, to kind of talk... Wow, never mind. Wow. Oh, he does get the reset with the Ice Spirit, but the Mortar is incredibly healthy, so he has to play maybe a Phoenix on top of it. Yep, there's the Phoenix that comes down. What I was going to say, AC, is that the one thing about this deck, as opposed to other minor poison decks, for instance, the one without Golden Knight and does have Mighty Miner, is that you have this ability because of that dash to create an insane amount of damage instantly that you usually don't have the ability to do with typical minor poisons. I'd say that's the only saving grace here for Minnie, but being 700 plus HP down, not really a good spot.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, it's you pointed out it was, I think it was like 12 or 2,600 to 1,300. I mean, he's staying 2-to-1 with him in damage, but I mean, he just needs one hog to get to the tower. Just once he gets the tower low, the earthquakes are going to be going crazy, and I mean, it's tough, but it's certainly possible. But I still just don't see it happening. It's just too much damage to give up early on.
And you see that Minnie kind of is believing just a little bit. Ilion maybe feeling the pressure. Yeah, just a bit, just a bit. He hasn't given up yet. Earthquake comes in, no NATO, no bomb tower. Now we have a lot of elixir to be spent on offense. Mighty Miner comes in for that Golden Knight, gets it all the way back. Dash doesn't have to come in yet. And a very odd kind of dash interaction there for Minnie. Doesn't get on top of tower, but Miner is there. 388 to 794. Earthquake plus Hog comes in. Has to play the last second bomb tower. Tornado, that's going to do it. And Minnie loses game number 1 because of his own misplays. That's literally it. And you can see right now, there's 2 things that he has to do. You have to reset your mental, and you have to recognize, I would have won game 1 if I didn't make misplays, so that's okay. In his mind, he can still say that he's maybe better than Ilion, but Ilion playing great in game number 1, never letting off the, never letting his foot off the gas, but also not overextending once it felt like the match was already in his bag.
Yeah, I feel like he did a great job of still applying pressure with the Mortars, with the Hogs, but he never overextended too much. He always had the opportunity to defend. So I thought that was great. Minnie Minter, game number 2, going to be running Hog, Valk, Bats. Ilion just going to be running Phoenix. It looks like we're going to be running the E-Giant deck. And Minnie Minter, it's just going to be, what tower is he running? What spell is he running? And we could see it again where, Hog starts out strong, but then E-Giant is able to come from behind. It's just, the E-Giant decks always have the... Oof.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you, AC, but I was going to say, I bet we're going to see a lot of Hog plus Bats or Hog plus Goblins because only the NATO is the best response. And then you saw there, Hog plus late Bats, then it gets the awkward NATO out of Ilion and a huge misplay.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I was going to say. I mean,
sorry.
E-Giant decks get weird. No, sorry, not that. I realize. But yeah, just E-Giant decks, they get weird. And so it's a great point that you make with the Hog plus the Bats, Hog plus the Goblins. You just need to be doing odd pushes that you don't often see. And this is going to be a great tower down right here.
Yeah, and I do like that Ilion did not go with the Lightning if he does have it to kind of clean all that off the board, and instead is just going for a tower trade. But Minnie now going for the 3 crown. AQ ability in again. We're going to game number 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he's going to absolutely get it. Earthquake plus the log. I mean, he's going to have to cycle to it, so he's still going to need to defend. But now that we're in double elixir, this is going to be pretty easy for him to just finish off this game.
Yeah, and this is kind of a masterclass for you at home watching how Minnie played this. He knew the matchup instantly, right? It was about the, I mean, who knows when he actually was able to recognize it, but you called it out on broadcast perfectly after the first 3 cards were played, I think, AC. You're like, this is most likely the E-Giant deck, which all the pros would be able to recognize. But then what Minnie did after that was being able to go, I know how to play through this matchup 10 times out of 10. Hog plus bats at the bridge, aggressive, things like that. Oh, you want to go for a tower trade? I'm going to keep that AQ alive. Love to see plays like that. And now, you know, I don't know if Minnie is just trying to take the time here to reset. Now the log comes back around. Honestly, there's those moments where we see players drag it out to kind of BM. But in this situation, I actually like that Minnie did it. I think it gave him time to kind of reset, revel in the moment of winning game number 2, and now we're going into a 0-0 for game number 3, winner take all.
Yeah, you know, it kind of felt like BM at first, and so it started to, you know, I started to chuckle at it, but then, you know, at the end of it, he kind of just nodded his head and then logged, so it's clear that it was probably just a discussion between him and his coach, just trying to set himself up for game number 3, so really, like, incredible awareness right there, not to just win the game. Like, let's think about this real quick.
Yeah, that's such a good point you make about the coach. Not only because, you know, I'm sitting over here just thinking about Minnie and his mental, but the idea, you know, the in-game duels format, you got seconds to pick your deck, right? Wow, a giant skeleton on the tower, that's huge early on. We'll see if Ilion can turn this into a big push. But the other part of it, AC, which you point out, which I think is actually the more important part of it, was give him time to talk to his coach. Give him time for his coach to reset him, settle him. And great defense there from Minnie. Ilion knows that was, I don't think he was clapping for his opponent, but I think he goes, wow, that was about as good as it could have got.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna see an opponent clap for another opponent in this game. You know, I could maybe see it in professional sports, but in this, I just don't see it happening.
So Minnie Minter with the lead by a lot, goes aggressive Royal Ghost at the bridge. Love that. Tombstone's in the opposite lane. Royal Ghost is going to go straight on through to the tower. No response in hand. And this is just, not only is this setting up for in case you get to a 2-tower game, but it also just kind of messes with your opponent a little bit. So Giant Skeleton cycled in the back to meet this Lava Hound. We'll see how this second little scrimmage goes for Ilion and Minnie Minter.
Wow, and I really like the Mother Witch placement right there. He's just trying to get, I mean, just more troops on the board so that way the Zappies stay alive and that way he can just defend this properly. I think that was a really cool defense, just using the Zappies up top instead of allowing the Inferno Dragon to get a ton of value with unplayed low.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fireball value though for Minnie, and now no arrows in cycle, no Mother Witch in cycle. Zappy's putting in some good work. Arrows come right back around, you know, in time enough as the Skeleton King starts to work on that left or right-hand tower. Now trying to get a King Tower activation is Minnie, and that's actually a really nice King Tower activation. Does matter in this matchup, whereas it's not as important in Royal Giant or Expo matchups.
Yeah, this is huge for him, but right here, okay, perfect. I absolutely need to be seeing Minnie Minter get aggressive. This is how you win this game at this point. You cannot afford to not be able to do that. And I mean, I love the arrows right there. He has to get this left tower down. The right tower doesn't matter. But look at this King Tower. It's, and I don't even think he's going to be able to take out the tower.
In the Inferno, and you can know Minnie knows he's in the wrong spot. 8 HP, Inferno on the tower. Ilion takes set number 4, and Minnie has to just be reeling after that set.
And I just have to say, I love these player cam reactions after the game. I mean, it's up, he dances, he celebrates. That's brilliant to see. I love seeing just that genuine reaction to winning that game. Ilion, I mean, lava, fireball, you know, he played it really well, and he just kept throwing lavas on the board, and a lot of the times I don't see that. I mean, it feels like, I got stopped once, I have to switch it up, but he kind of recognized, he spent a lot of elixir doing it. He's not, you know, I have Inferno Dragon in cycle this time, so he can't just Giant Skeleton and have it walk to the tower. It's those little things that he noticed, and so he just kept doing it over and over and over and over again.
And you talked about Minnie maybe needing to get more aggressive earlier on. There was that moment where I was talking about the Royal Ghost getting on tower, the pressure of the opposite lane. You know, again, hindsight being 2020 in the booth, I don't know if Royal Hog should have come down in that situation instead, but that did feel like a bit of a turning point for Ilion at least to go, you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm going to take the damage because that's how Lava Hound players play, and I'm going to set up a push on the right-hand side. And then before you knew it, Minnie was on his back foot.
Yeah, and I just love how he used the Inferno Dragon. I mean, you just set it behind, and you have the Tombstone going the same way, so that way all the troops kind of get stuck in the middle of the bridge, and so that way the Inferno Dragon doesn't start targeting other troops. So, I mean, just really solid gameplay, and he did not let him take that left tower. I thought the left tower was going to go down. He spent, you know, all his troops, all his elixir on the left side just to stop it right on time. And average cost, I mean, we keep seeing like 2.8, 3, 3.1, both players with an average cost of over 4.0, or, well, I guess, of 4.0 or above. And
3.9. We'll say 3.9.
Yeah, it kind of messed with the flow. I'm gonna say over 4.0 just because, and I'm gonna leave it there. You can take it now.
Well, Ilion pulls off maybe the biggest upset so far of the day, because you got to say Morton versus Mo. That's not really an upset either way. And this, I think, is kind of where the game was won and lost. This game number one for Minnie Minter, just too many mental mistakes, too many placement mistakes, things that honestly just shouldn't have happened at this level from Minnie, of all people. I'm sure he's going to be incredibly frustrated about it, but you know what? He's back in the monthly finals, which is exciting for you and me. I know that we're both fans of Minnie. We're friends with Minnie. But this first game, just tough stuff. Just missing that NATO early on just kind of sets you up for a really hard rest of your game. Then moving on to game number two, this was kind of the opposite, right? Minnie played this pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you talked about it, it was happening. It's just, you know, how do you get damage onto the tower? Well, it's going to be Hog, but he has the cannon, he has the tornado. So what do you do for that? You add more troops to it. You add the goblins, you add the bats, you do goblins if he doesn't have bar barrel in cycle, and you do bats if he does. And he recognized that very early on, got the tower damage that he needed, and then got all the tower damage. Got the king tower down to, I think it was like 23 HP, and a really cool play to not take the tower, take your time. And I mean, even though we got to the game 3 and it felt like he was in a good spot, I think it comes down to lack of aggression on the left side. I think he absolutely needed to get more aggressive. That way, he was just allowing Inferno Dragons and Skeleton Dragons to stack up, and you can't do that in that matchup.
Yeah, the early on defenses for Minnie in game number 3 were absolutely, I mean, breathtaking. I mean, the Mother Witch and the Zappies, I thought we're going to see a lot more damage come in, but the interactions were really, really well played by him, letting the Zappies take the aggro, then the Piggies, then the Mother Witch. It was really, really great. It felt like Minnie was back in the driver's seat. Ilion says, no, I'm going to reset. I know how to play lava. I'm going to take damage, sacrifice damage to build elixir, and he does a great job. Talk about a 23 HP King Tower in game number 2. How about a 2 HP King Tower in game number 3 there for Ilion as he stays in the upper bracket, going to be facing off against Haciel. And now we have finally our upper and lower bracket set AC. Maybe some surprises in the lower bracket, some surprises in the upper bracket. Let's take a quick look in here with where we're at as we're halfway through the day. We've got 4 more matches, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're going to be in that order. Faust and Momo, then Sandbox and Minnie, Keita and Morton, then Haciel versus Ilion. Some really, really interesting matchups here. I know that we are asked our predictions, AC, from, of course, the production team over at EE. Big shout out to them, doing a great job here today, making this run very smoothly with the two of us. Predictions for Sandbox Minnie. Any thoughts there?
I think just based off gameplay today, you have to give the edge to Sandbox. Until Minnie Minter shows me something else, it needs to be Sandbox. And it's not a slight on Minnie. Obviously, we know how talented he is, but he just hasn't shown that yet. And I think Sandbox is the favorite in this.
And I think it's a great moment, though, if you want to look in maybe Minnie Minter's corner of being like, hey, man, this is what you got to do. This is what it looks like when you want to be the best. Look who else is in the lower bracket. The reigning world champion. You have to know how to play through adversity. You have to know how to reset your mental. And if anyone can do that, probably better than anyone else in this whole bracket, this whole entire 8-player lineup, it's probably Morton. The second best person is the person you're seeing on the screen there, right there on the left-hand side of Mohamed Light. And I'm sure that conversation, even that conversation, is up for debate. But here we go. Faust, Momo, the debate here, no debate. Mohamed Light is the favorite. I bet if we did predictions with the community, it'd probably be like 95% to 5, and that 5% would be Faust's family. No offense, Faust, but you got a lot cut out for you here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, even 95-5, like, it's just, I mean, Mohamed Light, you know, every once in a while, you know, we'll do behind-the-scenes things for CR, and it's like, oh, and clearly the statistics are made up where it's like, oh, 90% for player A and 10% for player B. For Mohamed Light, he just breaks stats. It's just 90% for player Mohamed Light, and it's like, oh, well, this can't be true. And then you kind of look at it and you're like, well, actually, I'm surprised it's not higher.
Yeah, talk about a demoralizing start when you haven't even started the game yet and you're just looking at those numbers and what the community thinks about you.
Yeah.
But here we are. We're in our first matchup in the lower bracket. Remember, loser goes home with $1,000. Not bad. And of course, leaderboard points. Winner moves on. And just to remind you guys of what we saw from Faust, it was exactly what Mohamed Light is running in game number 1. That's what we saw out of Faust in game 1. Then game 2 for Faust got a little weird. Wall breakers plus drill and Inferno Tower just wasn't really the wave here, at least in the meta that we're currently in. Nice defense there from Mo. And then in game number 3, it was Royal Hogs, Earthquake, Mighty Miner that fell to an E-Giant deck, which it looks like Faust maybe just goes, all right, Keita, let me copy that deck and I'll maybe try to open this set against Momo with it. Mohamed Light on the other side of it, 2 up, 2 down from Morton, and Mo going right back to the same deck he ran early on. Ooh, that Golden Knight, oh, I was gonna say it might get on tower, but the dash from Mo's Golden Knight gets it just far enough away.
Yeah, perfect dash timing right there from Mohamed Light. Just really well done on that end. And so far, Mohamed Light has just defended absolutely perfectly. He's getting troops down the field, but none of the offensive possessions for Faust have looked intimidating whatsoever. It just kind of looks like they're both kind of waiting till double, waiting till triple, and while they do that, Mohamed Light's going to take a slight lead.
Yeah, and you look there, Mohamed Light not even wanting to waste 1 elixir, even though that Phoenix Egg would have been killed by the tower. Still completely perfect. And look at that beautiful lightning predict there from Faust. I'm okay with it, AC.
Yeah, this is another situation. I mean, we saw it with the RG deck, and right here he is going to be able to get the dash, so great damage there on Mohamed's side. But I mean, it just feels like Mohamed Light, like, the games he loses, it's because of these lightnings that just kind of happen early and often, and then take out the Phoenix and take out, you know, this troop or that troop. Really good King Tower activation. This time, it looks a lot different, though. He just has such a stronghold on this game right now.
So Faust trying to reset, go opposite lane as Mo builds a big push here on the right-hand side. Miner still going to the safe spot, then picked up by the Golden Knight. Golden Knight dash takes out the cannon. Phoenix still completely healthy. And Mohamed Light just firmly in control.
That is a crazy interaction right there. The opposing Phoenixes hit each other when they die, and so it pushes the egg outside of the poison right there.
Wow.
That is a hilarious interaction to see, and Mohamed Light must be very upset.
No, I'm glad you broke it down for me, because I was like, what on earth just happened there? Poison value going on the left-hand side there. Easy trigger pull for Mohamed Light. Gets the bomber off the board. Damage on tower. Takes that Phoenix down just a bit, and then starts to build pressure on the right-hand side. E-Giant goes right into it.
And a missed King Tower activation right there. Tower at 1,021 HP. Lowest tower for Mohamed Light still up at 2735. So just a massive advantage. Now he can start playing the miners in the back. No NATO in cycle as well. I think he's either 1 or 2 away. And so that's also great recognition. But it does allow him to bomber same lane. And that's why we see the poison in response on Mohamed Light's side.
Even just because it's almost impossible to pick apart any part of his game, I would have just loved to see that poison lower. That's all, right? So he didn't need the damage on tower. Would have been nice to get all those units poisoned for a bit longer. So there you go, Mo, in case you needed some advice from me.
Wait, Mo just tweeted? He said no.
Watch the broadcast, man. Get off Twitter. Jack working down the. Yeah, I mean, this is sewn up.
Yeah, tower down at 217. Phoenix taking out the bomber right there. A sign of respect from Faust. Also, just kind of a get me out of here. And Muhammad Light is going to take game number 1. Absolutely dominant in game number 1. And, you know, it might happen, Andrew. You might get your first caster prediction right for the day.
All right.
This is huge.
This is unbelievable abuse on broadcast. I'm an old man, AC. Please be nice.
I kind of want to set up a vlog just for this moment and just like film my reaction and get
I think you lost all the viewers when you said the word vlog.
They understand for this one.
So Muhammad Light considered the best minor control player with Tesla. Now Tesla not really as popular. Minor control with Bomb Tower, no problem here. Didn't work out for him in set number 1 against Morton, but just puts on a clinic in his opening game of set number 2 against Faust. And now Monk in the mix.
Yeah, right there.
Nice Ice Spirit there.
Yeah, beautiful Ice Spirit right there. Going to be able to defend that very, very easily. Faust, he's going to be running a control deck that plays pretty similarly to Balloon when Balloon was at its peak. I mean, the only differences are, you know, no Ice Golem, no Loon, and then you have the Drill and the Mighty Miner. So yeah, I really like this deck choice for Faust. On the other side, Muhammad Light, he's going to be running Ram Rider Bridge Spam. You don't often see that. Just some of the best players still use it every once in a while because they have every matchup memorized. I'm sure he's played against this matchup 10, 20 times.
Yeah, and I love this too because Mo goes to kind of the polar opposite end of the spectrum, right? I mean, in terms of what he ran in game 1 and also kind of in terms of what Mo likes to play. This deck, like you said, AC, not super popular in the meta right now, not used a lot, but pros, they know it very, very well. It was incredibly strong maybe like 4 months ago or something like that. I can't remember exactly what his time, but like you said, Muhammad Light definitely knows this matchup through and through.
Right there, Ram Rider going to be able to stop the pressure from the Drill, and it's going to be able to force out the Bomb Tower. Monk not going to be able to do any sort of damage, and a little baby counter push, but again, just not going to matter. Faust cleaning this up very nicely. The quick cycle between the Ice Spirit, the Goblins, and the Musketeer just makes every single defensive possession so easy. That's a huge mistake for Muhammad Light right there.
And you know what? What's crazy about it, AC, is the respect from Faust. He didn't need to throw that log, right? But he was just like, oh man, Muhammad Light places that Magic Archer up high, it's gonna get on top of tower, mitigate the damage. So even though it was not a great play by Mo, it still baited out a log that was unnecessary from Faust.
That's really cool. I never would have thought about it like that, but I think you're totally correct. You know, you just give so much respect to your opponent that he couldn't possibly make a mistake. And right there, that's
another
number 2.
Yeah. Back to back from Muhammad Light with the Magic Archer. And you guys, I'm sure you know at home, when you play against players that are very good with Magic Archer, you'll probably see it the most in the Minor Wall Breakers Magic Archer deck with Valkyrie and NATO. But that Magic Archer is so intimidating when you're going up against someone that's actually good with it. And when you recognize it early on, you start to predict them. And when you recognize early on they're not playing it well, you also start to abuse it. And I don't think that's exactly the case for Mo, but those 2 mistakes are very uncharacteristic.
Yeah, and right here we finally have the push that we were looking for. If you are a Muhammad Light fan, Lock going to come out, and that's going to be able to put the Monk pushes the Drill off of it. Inferno Dragon not going to be able to lock onto the tower just yet, but no Goblins are going to come down. It's going to be it.
It was just like the Inferno just stayed alive forever. No damage done at all. So Muhammad Light doing exactly what you'd expect. And you look at the look on his face, exactly what he expects. All right, you want to send me down through the lower bracket? Did you watch World Finals? Did you see what happened at World Finals? Send me down to the lower bracket. No problem. Easy 2-0 for the GOAT as Faust is eliminated. Our first player eliminated. Remember that 7-8 spot will walk away with $1,000. Faust the first one to say goodbye, but again, great start for him on the year. And because this is not only a golden ticket situation, remember 16 players going to the World Finals, 7 with tickets. and 7. Of course, with those leaderboard points, the other 2 will be joining them. And that, I think, at least for Faust, okay, not bad. Didn't have the best opening set, but I went up against one of the, the OGs in Keita, and then I played against the GOAT and got 2-0'd. So we'll see if Faust comes back in our next monthly final. But AC, how you feeling about our day as we work through our lower bracket?
I think, okay, so I want to start with some of the cards. I think Phoenix is slightly better than I expected before today. I feel like it's been a very dominant factor in a lot of these matchups. And right there, thank you to whoever is pulling replays, because that was probably my favorite part of the day.
Yeah.
And so just brought me a lot of joy seeing that on the screen again. And then I think the other thing is, while there is a decent bit of variety, we are still seeing certain decks be replayed every single set, or at least 70% of sets. And I mean, specifically that minor poison deck with the bomb tower.
And the E-Giant deck, right? Those two
Yeah.
feel like they've just been everywhere.
Yeah, and the E-Giant. So besides those two things, I think we've seen some very solid gameplay, but also a lot of mistakes. I think we've seen a fair bit of mistakes, and that's always going to happen when the first season opens up every single year.
Yeah, that's right. That first monthly final, there's always some jitters to shake off. And, one of the interesting things, we talked about it during that game, the log on the Magic Archer up high, right? Didn't really need to be played there. Then Mo plays another Magic Archer in range of the bomb tower. Also a mistake, 2 Magic Archer mistakes in a row. And then he gets that Magic Archer down at the bridge late game, but the Mighty Miner moved out of its range. And then the Goblins were placed on the inside of the tower by Faust. And Faust still fireballed the Magic Archer plus the Royal Giant. And it's a tough thing to do, right? Because that's the perfect amount of value, getting 2 units, cleaning the Magic Archer off the board. But then he was completely overwhelmed on defense. You wonder if that fireball could have been used maybe a second later. Who knows? But the intimidating Magic Archers from Mo got a lot out of Faust. Let's move on to game number 2. That game number 1 was, it's exactly what you'd expect with that deck. And then game number 2, kind of more of what we were just saying. The Magic Archers from Mo, not perfect, but they were so intimidating to Faust. It seems like it kind of got in his head. Drill from Faust doesn't seem to be working out here today. We'll see if he wants to reset next month as we get into our second lower bracket matchup here. I'm sure we'll see the bracket in just a moment, but didn't really see any Balloon from it. Isn't Balloon kind of in the meta right now, AC? Isn't there like a couple Balloon decks that are working?
I'm actually not totally sure. I can't remember. Like, I looked through probably 1,000 decks on Royale API, just with all the tournament games and everything. And I'm trying to see.
I'm looking right now, and it looks like there's 2 Lava Loon decks that are pretty far down in the UC leaderboard. One from Air Surfer that he played, and it looks like the other one was from Yahoo, both at 2,500 roughly. So maybe that's why Faust just not feeling Balloon at the moment. And as you guys can see, bottom of your screen there, Mohamed Light on to day number 2 in the lower bracket. Sandbox and Minnie Minter is going to be our next matchup, and then we're going to close out the day with Keita versus Morton, then haciel versus Ilion. Ilion, kind of the Cinderella story, at least so far, of the day, even though he is known in the pro community, kind of a new face for us here at CRL. Match number 6, Sandbox, Minnie, AC. We were just talking about this because Minnie didn't play that long ago. He only had 1 match off, and now he's right back, as Rich would say, out of the frying pan and into the fire, excuse me. I do really think that Sandbox has the edge here because of what we saw in gameplay, but I also think, like I said, this is a very important moment for Minnie Minter to kind of reset, and even if he doesn't win this set, I want to see him play his best throughout it, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. We just want to see the consistency that we know him for, with, a mix of really, really cool plays thrown in. I was able, actually, my last, theoretical professional match was on Rich's YouTube channel, and I got to go against Minnie. And he blew me out of the water with a lot of just, his average plays, but then he also made some really smart plays. So I want to see that out of this set right here. Then on the other side, Sandbox, he's just so talented. The coach that he works with is so good with Winwoo, and so it's just a lot of the advantages goes to Sandbox. If you took a list of 10 things, Sandbox would win in 8 of them. So Minnie Minter definitely has a tough task for him right now.
And there you see Sandbox at World Finals. Our boy Rich having a great time. Big time wins there for Sandbox, showing the best performance of his entire career and looking to repeat here in 2023. Big fan of that guy, and also a big fan of Minnie. When we look at what these guys ran in their first matches of the day, Minnie Minter started off with the incredibly strong and incredibly powerful and overused Minor Poison with Golden Knight and Phoenix. And then he went on to Hog EQ and closed things out with Royal Hog, Arrows, plus Flying Machine against Ilion.
So it looks like Sandbox, I mean, we see the NATO and we see the Bombers. So are we going to see the E-Giant as well?
Still possibly. Still possibly. I believe.
Possibly, yeah. So just a little bit of feeling each other out right now. A little bit coming down the board, but it's certainly not going to be that difficult for him. And we see a Hog on defense. This is really cool. One of the plays that I really like doing, and I really like seeing, is when your opponent has the Tornado and he has the Goblin Cage, well, you can effectively use the Hog on defense, because even if it's taken, you know, to half health, you're still forcing out that same Goblin Cage. You're still forcing out that same NATO, so you can use it to tank a lot more than when they're using other troops and other buildings to defend homes.
Earthquake coming down on top of the King, Princess, and Bomber there as the first E-Giant is set up in the back right-hand side. Two perfectly untouched towers for Minnie to defend. A little high there on that bomb tower, maybe recognizing that the Baby Dragon is out of cycle and maybe trying to bait out the Phoenix. We'll see.
Yeah, I really thought that he was going to be baiting out the Phoenix right there, but then we see the Musketeer placed on the total opposite end. Is he going to use the... I don't know if he was trying to pop it or if he wasn't trying to pop his ability, but either way, solid defense right there. But I think certainly as Double Elixir hits and when he has Baby Dragon in cycle, he's definitely going to have to move that bomb tower placement. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with doing that time and time again.
Yeah, he'll just probably play it just a little bit lower so it's still, you know, pulling. No, you know what? He's listening to the broadcast and he says, no, 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 sir. And we'll see if the Baby Dragon does come out or not. But no qualms with Minnie playing that Ice Spirit, or excuse me, that bomb tower up high. Maybe Ice Spirit coming down to look for the Baby Dragon, but no, it's to support the Hog Rider. Nice Goblin placement there, but still a swing comes through for Minnie.
Yeah, with only 7 Elixir, Minnie Minter, I mean, and the Baby Dragon hitting everything all at once. Right there. Okay, and then a really solid ability.
Yeah,
but he's just
Phoenix
overextending.
Yeah.
This is the case of just completely overextending, going Hog same lane, so that way the Goblin Cage can come out in response. So just a really optimal position for Sandbox. And I mean,
why same lane there, AC? That really doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it comes down to he just kind of wants to apply pressure, and I think it kind of worked out. That's the thing. But again, having to use the Hog on defense.
Oof. And Sandbox ready to go with that lightning. That's a frustrating one for Minnie. Yeah, I believe I cut you off when you were saying he had to use the Hog on defense, because when he doesn't have the Monk in cycle, that is his only tanky ground unit, is the Hog Rider. And that's one of those things why decks like this are such high skill cap, because, you know, at lower levels, people just don't know how to defend and kite the way that Minnie's been doing in this game. And you know what? He's really making a game of it. 2041 to 2419. Hog Rider comes down right-hand lane, high Goblin Cage to catch as an E-Giant plus works down the left-hand lane. There's a lot of red on the board.
Yeah, with only 5 Elixir, Monk is going to come down, but it's not going to matter just yet. Ice
Baby
Spirit
Dragon
not
on the tower.
Be able to do anything. So yeah, that Baby Dragon just chipping away.
Minnie Minter.
Oh my.
Gotta feel a bit of a tilt right now, but again, has to figure out a way to try to reset that mental, or just recognize this is what 2023 looks like. I'm gonna have to play through a ton of adversity. You can see him sitting there thinking, maybe talking to his coach, trying to figure out what's gonna come up here in game number 2. Though Sandbox doing a great job with a different look of E-Giant, but E-Giant's still strong.
Yeah, I really like his deck, and you have to assume that he's in talks with his coach. Okay, this guy, or Minnie Minter, has been using Hog, and what do you remember Minnie Minter's his sets from the first set, or his deck
Yes, I have
per set?
a perfect memory. And game number 1, he ran Miner with the deck that we see everyone running, Miner Poison with Golden Knight and Phoenix. Game number 2, it was Hog EQ Mortar with Valkyrie and AQ. And then game number 3 was Royal Hogs, Fisherman, Flying Machine, Zappies with Giant Skelly.
Yeah, so I wonder if they took a look at all those decks that he used in the first set and then said, well, Goblin Cage is going to be a lot stronger against the Hogs, the Royal Hogs. And so, you know, let's take a look at Goblin Cage instead of any other kind of building.
A little bit of a stop and stare right here from our two competitors. Minnie taking a bit of a nap, as they probably both know this is going to be a game that is decided in maybe just 1 minute or maybe 3. We'll see. How you doing, man? A little warmer today. You're in LA.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Don't have to worry about. I mean, I moved away from the rain. I mean, it never really rained that much where I was from, but this is like real rain now.
Talking about where you're
used to it in
from.
LA.
Did you see that the Kings, first time over 500 since you were born, 2006?
Yes,
I believe?
sir. Yes, sir. 916 represent my my
Can't
Sacramento
say that
Kings.
on broadcast.
I did, so. But yeah, I'm very excited about the Kings' journey this season. I'm going to the first playoff game, so very excited about that. And to celebrate that, we're going to watch some CR, Minnie Minter, and Sandbox first play of the day in this game. It's going to be Skeleton King. It's just so much fireball value right there. You absolutely cannot afford to give that away.
It's so funny because when you say 916 represent, I feel like it's like pretty cool, and I feel like everyone knows what that means. I'm from Oregon, and I feel like if I say 503 in the house or something, I think I just aged like 10 more years.
I don't like it.
All right. Skeleton King gets pulled by that fish boy as a giant skeleton and hunter work on this RG. It seems like Sandbox has just like an ocean of elixir that he's working through, so much on the board, but Minnie doing a great job just defending the way he needs to. Now a GY comes down as we get into our overtime.
It's not very often where I like really do not like a push from one of the players, but that push right there, it was so aggressive, going in with the Barbarial plus the Graveyard. When there was a Mother Witch completely on the board, I didn't really like that, and it's just such a tough position for him now. I don't know if he'll be able to defend this.
And you see the good game called because he knows the fireball's coming down, and Minnie is already off. He's left the building. He's out. And you understand why a very frustrating day for Minnie Minter, a guy that has played exceptionally well in his career and now back in our first monthly finals. I think it's actually really great for 2023, right? Like, again, like I said, in 2022, pretty quiet year out of Minnie, but already being here at the highest level in the first month. Now, it didn't go his way. It's still a good thing to look forward to. On the other side of it, you look at Sandbox. That is a man on a mission. That is a guy dialed in. He goes, cool, monthly finals, great. Still alive, whatever. I want to get to world finals again. 6th place last year, let's go for 1st place this year. And you can see locked, loaded, ready to go, and kind of exactly what you and I talked about, AC. When you looked at the matchup on paper, it felt like it would have been a bit of a surprise based off of what we saw today if Minnie Minter took that set, and then Sandbox takes a pretty easy 2-0.
You know, I just have to say, I think it's pretty cool. Sandbox has now started the round of 1,000, the round of 32, and the round of 8, 0-1. It's like, it's horrible when you're rooting for Sandbox, but as a sort of non-biased caster, it's like just super cool seeing a player stick to what got him there, and it's working for him.
Well, you know, there's this, I've been watching a lot of tennis lately, right? And there's a player there for you that maybe aren't familiar with tennis named Andy Murray. He's an older guy, and he's done this incredible thing where he's coming back over and over. It's a similar thing like in Clash Royale, being down a game in a best of 3, where he does it so often, he can always come back that it starts to intimidate the opponent, knowing that, look, it doesn't matter if I'm up 1 game and winning in the first 2.5 minutes of game number 2, Sandbox can always come back. And that really starts to get in the head of your opponents, because you know how it is, AC, when you're winning a game, there's only like a minute or so left, minute and a half left, and you just feel like it's in the bag. You start to play almost even better But the fact that Sandbox is never gone, he's never out of the conversation, makes him incredibly intimidating, even when he started all of those rounds down one set. So Sandbox stays alive. Minnie, we'll see if he comes back next month. Look at these decks. Talk to me about him a little bit.
Yeah, game one, he is going to use the E-Giant plus the Goblin Cage, and just a little bit heavier than what we're used to seeing out of these E-Giant decks. I mean, oftentimes we're seeing, 3.2 or 3.1 or whatever it is for the average Elixir. Right here, this is a pretty heavy E-Giant deck.
Yeah.
You're not trying to set up multiple E-Giants until triple Elixir. You're not trying to, cycle your Lightning to get into this card. Even with the 3-card cycle, it is still a very slow rotation. So he and his coach must have seen something that they really liked and wanted to go with a bulkier deck, and it worked out for him. The Hog was not able to provide enough pressure. The Monk on defense was I was gonna say great, but it's just not. It's good, not great, and it was just complete dominance in game number one. And it starts with the deck choice, which I just a huge fan of. And then game number two, I mean, we saw what happened. Yeah. It's just kind of bridge battle, overextension, and then Sandbox wins.
And at least in the conversation of matchup, you have to give at least a little bit of credit here to Minnie going up against Skeleton King that can stack those souls, having the bar barrel to clean, and also the Fisherman to pull that giant skeleton. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, obviously the Mother Witch, right? Mother Witch going up against Graveyard. You talked about it. You really didn't like the push that came in from Minnie because there was already so much on the board, including a Mother Witch, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. That set up the Skeleton King in one lane, the Royal Giant in the other, the Fireball on top of the Zappies because Minnie had to overspend on defense, so just kind of falling apart there in those final moments. Good luck, GG's to Minnie Minter as Sandbox stays alive. Now, we got 2 more matches left here in our day in the upper bracket. Remember, both of these matches, all 4 players have a life to give. Keita and Morton, and then Haciel versus Ilion. AC, I believe more predictions are in, and I gotta pick, you know what? No, don't show the graphic. I gotta pick someone else because there's no way for me to win now. I've already lost.
Yes, I just have to keep responding after you, and then I can just say exactly who you say. I haven't thought about a prediction since match number 3. But yeah, I mean, I think our choices make sense. I don't think I would assume the community would agree with both of us.
Yeah, I would assume so. Rough start for our day, but a pretty clean finish, we'll hope. So let's get into the next matchup of the day. Match number 7, Morton, Keita. Keita hasn't played since the opening set of the day. We'll see if he's still warm, but Morton also second set of the day, a quick 2-0. Let's see if they're both still in gear. AC, any thoughts on this matchup? It definitely feels like Morton is probably the favorite.
Yeah, I think Morton just looked like he was secure in his gameplay against Muhammad Light earlier today. And Keita, there were a few mistakes and a couple, cycle issues, and is this the right deck? Or, no one would ever question that for Morton's gameplay earlier today and just his gameplay in general. And with no questions surrounding him, it looks like, I mean, we say this every single year, but it looks like it's peak Morton. And you just have to give it to Morton right here.
But you know what, AC? We've technically been right because peak Morton is the best. He's getting better and better. Last year, his best finish ever, right? Second place at World Finals, all on his own. Not in a team situation. And again, we haven't even addressed the fact that he opened up his set today with the guy he lost to at World Finals and how hard that must be and the way that he played, right? He played like a man on a mission. He was like John Wick out there. He was out for revenge. A quick 2-0 set against Muhammad Light is always going to be impressive from anyone, but then coming from the guy who lost to him at World Finals, that's a lot less money. That's a lot less clout. Mo is the greatest in the world. Morton is remembered as number 2 twice now, but he was able to come out strong today. And we'll see if he can keep that going. Keita and Morton both starting their days with strong opening sets. Morton did it in 2, Keita did it in 3, and now you see him getting ready. Both of them locked, loaded, ready to go. I would be actually, I think, surprised if Keita won, and that's not a shot on him. It's more so about the Morton that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I think it goes 100% just props to Morton and nothing against Katasyan, because Katasyan is certainly a talented player. He's been in the CR scene for the last 4 or 5 years, winning in the team format, winning in solo formats. It's impossible to do both if you're not extremely talented. So certainly all the praise, because just Morton's that good. And Katasyan right here. And actually with this, I can immediately go into saying
Expo.
I
right?
already I don't know. I haven't seen this Expo deck, so hopefully we see that.
Okay, no, never mind. There's the
okay.
Expo deck with the double spirits and Mini P.E.K.K.A. that isn't super popular. Go ahead.
Yeah, I recognize the deck that you're talking about now. But I just like that that Katasyan is using cards that aren't often used. When you get into a battle against Morton, where both of you guys are using the meta deck, it's going to be Morton winning that more often than not. So
that's a really great point you make.
Yeah, if you use these kind of off meta decks, it gives you a better shot.
Gets a little funky, right? You got to think about, when's the last time I played through this matchup, or have I played this matchup before? Okay, now I need to figure it out on the fly. Whereas, you know, we were talking so much about Mini Minter, you know, when he saw that E-Giant matchup with his hogs, bats, goblins, he goes, I know this matchup. I've won it 100 out of 0, you know, 100 out of 100 times. And that's what the matchup felt like when he played it, was 100-0.
Wow. And right here, the goblins to protect. I don't think he has anything to knock it up.
God. That was just exactly what you want to see out of Morton, AC. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that was amazing.
I mean, the timing for that. I mean, he pops the ability, but has enough elixir, so that way he can goblins at the same time as the popped ability. So that way the fisherman goes to the goblins. I mean, that is perfection right there. And Morton, I mean, look at his lips. Perfect timing for me to look at that.
I know. He literally just wants to smile, but you know Morton, he's one of the most respectful players that have ever played the game. He's just trying to, like, keep his composure, but he knows that was some fancy footwork. And for all you that follow one of Morton's 2 channels with one of the hundreds of thousands of you, I bet you see a quick highlight on that brilliant play.
And now, I mean, it's just, can he defend? This is actually the deck that that Faust lost with, and I wasn't sure how effective of a deck it was overall. And so now when we're seeing it played like this, it's clear that it's a very, very strong deck. The Musketeer plus the Ice Spirit and Goblins, it defends everything. And because Katasyan only has, I mean, he has a slower cycle, but he only has the Bar Barrel, he has to pick and choose. Does he want to use the Bar Barrel on defense or offense? And he always used it on defense, which allowed the Goblins to get so much value on Morton's side.
And just a quick caveat there, too. The deck that Faust ran, I think, had the Inferno Tower instead of the Bomb Tower. So Morton just playing that to absolute perfection. I mean, that was just a treat for us to watch. And honestly, I think if you're Keita, you got to be a little annoyed, but more so like, hey, bro, good play. Brilliant play.
Yeah. It's just like, it had to be one of the 2 or 3 archetypes where if he went into the game and saw that, he was assuming he would lose. So when you run those kind of decks, you just can't even get mad at it. It's just, you know, 1 out of 4 times, 1 out of 3 times, I'm just going to auto lose, and that's what happened in game number 1.
Snowball out early from Morton, and then Zappies coming down. Seeing a decent amount of Zappies today. I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Maybe because... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I really love the Giant Skeleton Zappies deck, and so I'm hoping that's what we're going to see right here. And so far, it still could be.
Royal Ghost working down the lane. Cannon Cart just a tile low from Morton, but maybe trying to... Yeah, I mean, that just kind of is a bummer all the way around the board. I think he just needs to eat the shot from the Magic Archer coming across the bridge, and he does. Takes both of them.
Yeah, right there. That was very uncharacteristic from Morton. I mean, just giving up so much damage that he absolutely did not need to give up. Right here, he could pop the ability.
Yeah. And he does it late, maybe trying to avoid the death damage, but still takes it. And 1927 now, as the Snowball has to come out. Morton taking a lot of damage there and having to spend an arm and a leg. Only up by 1.5, if you will, but down by a lot of HP.
Yeah, throwing out the well played. I mean, not taking. I mean, it really comes down to if he cannon cards better, none of that happens.
Yeah.
And so instead of blaming himself, he's just kind of giving props to his opponent, which is kind of weird because in that situation, I wouldn't think to throw out a well played. I would just kind of like internalize it and not have the right mindset. For him, it's just, okay, you know, I made a mistake and my opponent was able to get damage from it. He played well, but I'm gonna learn from this.
AC would have dropped the oops more likely than not. And is the deck that Morton is running, is this GY? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense at this point.
Right? Yeah, it couldn't really be anything else. And Cannon Cart trying to snipe the Magic Archer. I had a feeling he was going to go for it. And AC, again, a bit of a misplay with the Cannon Cart from Morton.
Yeah, it's just not what we're used to seeing from him. Cannon Cart, it's still going to get value because the Magic Archer is shooting its way onto the Cannon Cart instead of any of the other troops. But at this point, I don't know if Morton's going to be able to defend this. And I think keita might be able to win game number 2. I mean, obviously, I don't want to speak too early, but this is going to be tough for him to even just get damage on offense with his graveyard deck.
Those Zappies and the Skeleton King all being in the same spot means he can get the dash on. You understand why Morton's doing it? He wants to make sure that when the Golden Knight dashes, that it then redirects on top of the Skeleton King. But that NATO from keita was perfect. The Skeleton King lost behind the tower there as we get to game number 3.
That was a cool play. I think he had the game locked up. I think he was going to win no matter what. The Golden Knight dashes, it's just going to be able to get through regardless of how talented Morton is at defending. But he just knew he could win the game. Oh, Snowball's out of cycle. He can't pop this off the tower. He needs to get Elixir for one last push. And so he could just win right there. I thought that was a very cool way of ending the game.
Now we love all the Maxes and the Ricks and the Drews of the world, but how you feel about that Golden Knight dash right now?
It's so far I haven't seen anything too wild.
Okay.
But I mean, it's
that's actually
I'm okay with it.
That's a good point that you make. Today, I think, like you're saying, today at the highest level, there hasn't been any of those instances in my mind where we're seeing a Golden Knight do something that you wouldn't have thought it was going to do. And I think that speaks volumes because a lot of people are out there chattering about it, and I think you make a really strong point there, AC.
Well, perfect. I'm glad that everybody's happy.
Finally.
Yeah. And right here, we should see the NATO. We absolutely do. So this is cool. I mean, this is just great. Actually,
I was going to say that's going to hit. Yeah.
I wonder if he could have played that NATO a little bit differently. And like, this is like one of the few times where Morton actually isn't well versed in that kind of scenario. So kind of a really cool spot, but also just Morton, game 3 using Golem. That's very cool from Morton.
Yeah, he's a guy that has talked a lot about his relationship with Golem in Clash Royale, and you know, some of the times we've seen him do it is, I mean, a lot of the times in the recent years we've seen him do it is against Mohamed Light because he just doesn't know what else to play against him. But you talk about a guy that's kind of fun to watch him play anything and can play anything. You see this excellent Golem push coming through. Golden Knight tanked for by both the Golemites. Phoenix still alive. Barbell comes in to support, and Morton doing Morton things with the big bag of rocks.
But right now, keita not in a terrible spot. I'm pretty sure if you asked him, hey, you know, you're going to be down 700 HP, but this is the matchup, and this is game number 3, I think he'd be fully content with that. And right there, Loon over the middle, going to be able to go directly towards the pump. Oh, but he's going to NATO it away. I like that he's protecting this pump. He still has plenty of time, and he needs a big push. He's down too much HP to just kind of nickel and dime.
That was a really fun little chess match we saw there, right? The pump being played offset to the right. Morton's trying to bait out that balloon in the right-hand lane so that he can build a counter push back against it. So what does Keita do? He goes Monk in the left-hand lane and balloon over the middle, but then that allows Morton to use the nado to mitigate some of the damage from the balloon on the pump. It was just a lot happened that was really kind of deep level gameplay there, and just excellently executed by both of them.
And right there, able to protect his pump once again. E-Dragon not going to be able to chain onto the archers, so going to have to force out a bar barrel as well. We are 40 seconds away from triple elixir, and I think that's what Morton kind of has to wait for, and it's tough spot right there.
Yeah, just barely missing that Phoenix. Now Morton having to deal with just a little bit of a counter push on the right-hand side. And now Keita, seeing blood in the water, goes, all right, let me see if I can double down on this and get that lower tower down. But now Morton has a massive counter push, but remember, no spell in hand other than nado.
Really cool chest smash once again. You know, is he going to be able to get the Golden Knight dash off in time? He thinks that Morton is going to try and use the dash at that exact moment, so then he uses the arrows at that exact moment. I thought that was a really cool mini chess match for only 2 seconds. It was just, would he do it? I'm guessing yes.
And that's a big hit there by Morton, getting that chain on the tower, because remember, Keita has him beat in spell damage. Arrows plus snowball, it's not a lot, but it is more than just a nado.
Not gonna pop the ability until now. There we go, ability pop.
Wow.
Second golem on the board, 30 seconds left. It's gonna be these two goals as the only...
Oh, Golden Knight on the tower, that's it. And you see Morton, he knows it's all sewn up.
Wow.
Goten, Morton, the best player out of Germany, 6 years running, stays in that upper bracket. A little bit more adversity here in his second round matchup in the upper bracket against Keita, going 2-1, but there's all smiles there for Morton, knowing that today was a great day of CRL for our world number 2.
I think it's brilliant that you asked me, oh, you know, how do you feel about this Golden Knight, da-da-da-da, and then the Golden Knight went crazy in this game.
Yeah. And it was all okay, right? Every one of those plays felt legitimate.
Yeah, and I have no problem with it, but it's just, I sort of wasn't sure if it was going to be able to take out the tower, and then all of a sudden tower was gone, so just cool timing with that. And right here, this was one of the plays of the day. Just great timing with the popped ability and the goblins over the middle.
I'm going to call it the play of the day, man. I really am. I love that you even brought that verbiage up. And honestly, so far, the player of the day, it's 100% Morton. He's able to 2-0 Mo, goes up against Keita, a 2-time world finalist, and goes 2-1 against him. Goten is back, Morton is back, and he does it with everything that you could think of in the book, including Golem Pump to close things out. And there we go. There's the final small celebration that we get from Morton. He's been here since day one. He knows that there is a long journey ahead, but talk about a huge weight off your shoulders if you get that first golden ticket.
And right here, 4-card cycle 13, 2-11. I mean, it's going to be a golem deck, so it's obviously going to be pretty heavy. And I mean, I think with that, it was really cool. I love that you talk you know, gave that 5-second talk about why he did the pump over the middle and why Katasian responded that way. Because, I mean, that's how it was. The entire game was, could Morton build the elixir? And for Katasian's side, it's, could Katasian provide enough pressure but still have enough elixir to defend and still, you know, take out pumps? For Morton, it was one thing. Katasian, he had to worry about 5 different levels, and that's why it was just so simple for Morton at the end, and also because he's just so great.
He's Morton. Yeah, here we go. Game number 1. Keita opens up with Mini P.E.K.K.A plus E-Spirit, and then Morton decides to go Mighty Miner Drill. Who knows what this matchup actually looked like? It was the great play with the Ice Spirit plus the Mighty Miner, the Goblins over the middle, the ability, and GG, well played. Let's move on to game number 2. Love that the Mighty Miner can do that. Seriously, still one of my favorite things about that card. Game number 2. AC, what did you feel about this matchup and the deck that Morton came out with?
I don't really like this deck. There's something about using Skeleton King decks without being accompanied by the giant skeleton, or the lava, or something else. When you're using it as the main face of, you know, your tank in your deck, it just seems to have lackluster success in competitions. I think it works a lot better with at least a Valk. I mean, even the Valk variant of this deck is significantly stronger, in my opinion, just from the eye test.
Yeah, and it increases that cycle by just a bit, or I should say lowers it. But also, we had the misplaced cannon cart, right? I mean, that really was kind of the story of that. It gave Keita a huge opening to reset as we got into game number 3, tied at 1. And then, you know, we used chess match maybe like 20 times during this match because that's exactly what it was. What's that? And I said it again.
And I'll use it again.
Yeah, I will, because it was so fun to watch and really great plays from both of them. Keita now goes down into the lower bracket. He's still alive. Morton staying perfect on the day. And we are at our last match of day 1. Ilion. Who'd have thought, right? Ilion going up against haciel, but how did we get there? Well, it was a Keita Morton show to start the day, then haciel and Ilion were able to close out our opening part of the bracket. Then we hop down to the first round. Momo and Sandbox stay alive, number 1 and number 6 in the world, and not going to play each other yet, but it will be a Keita and Sandbox matchup. Excited to see that, as Ilion, haciel, and Mohamed Light all think about who's going to win this and who's going to lose it. Either way, if you're haciel or Ilion AC, you have to play Morton or you have to play Mo. You're getting number 1 or number 2. Is there a preference here?
Yeah. Hey, I'm not going to... The preference is going to be, hey, let me be in the winner's bracket. That's the only preference you can have.
So 2 guys that are newer to the scene. haciel's been around a bit longer, at least in terms of Clash Royale League. haciel started today off with a lot of firepower, just really aggressive, opening up his first game, just hyper aggressive. I think we saw a cannon cart plus another tank plus the graveyard, and then a snowball came down. Maybe it was a monk. I know the monk was what he snowballed, but either way, incredibly aggressive. Ilion on the other side of it, maybe capitalizing on a Minnie who is trying to get back in fighting form.
Yeah, I think Ilion, game 3 was great, but game 1 was just capitalizing. Yeah. And haciel, it feels like both of the games that he won were, you know, solely because of him. So right now, I think haciel has to be the favorite, but Ilion, like, it's always great seeing, you know, especially newer players to the scene being able to capitalize. It's so many players are worried about being too aggressive or not aggressive enough, and sometimes you just have to believe in yourself. Sometimes you just have to make the play, and in set number 1, he was able to do that. Now, set number 2 against haciel, the way he's playing in the decks he's choosing, I think that's great for haciel. I think those kind of weird decks really mess with the fresher players to the scene.
Ilion ran Hog EQ with Mighty Miner and Archers and Delivery in game number 1. And again, he was able to pick up that win off of kind of some misplays there from Minnie. And haciel doing exactly what is on brand for him, right? Spending 6 elixir out of the gate, super aggressive, but it's interesting because you get to fill out your opponent really quickly and be like, hey man, are you awake? And the other side of it is your opponent now basically knows exactly what you're running within the first 20 seconds of the game.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a competitive match where somebody's been this aggressive every single time. It's like kind of odd to see and really cool, because I haven't seen this in years where somebody is this aggressive out the gate every single time.
Yeah, I was going to say odd but fun, right? It's been a lot of fun to watch, and perfect recognition there, right? I mean, that's just high level. It doesn't feel like it, but when there's that much pressure and this much money on the line, letting that Dark Prince go with the late arrows on top, just perfect timing, perfect planning there. And oh, that is really unfortunate. The snowball comes in with the E-Spirit, but the E-Spirit just kind of, I think it just jumped on one wall breaker, didn't get the other one, didn't get the bats.
Yeah, it chained incorrectly. It chained kind of up, down, and then immediate down instead of up. But also the other thing is which he has no excuse for, which we don't often see. He just didn't know the interaction. He had the Ram Rider in the back, but then he used the E-Spirit plus the Snowball, and that does not kill wall breakers. So even had it hit both, they both would have still hit the towers. So just a massive mistake right there.
Yeah, I know. That was the other part of it I was, kind of wanting to get to, was not only did the bats not even get touched, but then the interaction in and of itself was still not what you needed. So I think it was kind of just a panic button. Oh, and look at that, just lining up for a Magic Archer. That's just, you gotta, I mean, it's tough. It's the 8th card played, but I don't know. Just kind of tough there for Ilion.
Yeah, right there. I love what haciel did. He knows the game is over, depending on whether or not he can defend. And so with that, let me just take out one of the towers just in case I can't actually do it. So I love that he took out the tower early and just let these last 25 seconds, just let it breathe. All right, let me try and defend this.
This is a lot. Wow, doesn't get the kite off. 16 seconds remain. Mega Knight not getting on top of tower, and I believe haciel is going to escape by the skin of his teeth there, now able to kind of lock down that defense. Nice plays there by Ilion at the end. He protects the AQ with the mini P.E.K.K.A, then is able to get some good lightning value in, but haciel starts aggressive and finishes strong.
Yeah, perfect gameplay throughout. I love that he went with a Magic Archer to take out the tower right there. And Ilion, I mean, he played fine other than that one massive mistake, but you just don't see other players making that. I think it comes down to not knowing the deck very well and just kind of playing like what's meta. And because of that, you saw the Ram Rider in the back, which you don't often see, and then you saw the E-Spirit plus Snowball, which doesn't take out the wall breakers. So 2 plays back to back, and a lot of players that are well versed in that deck wouldn't have made either of them.
Yeah, that second one that you talk about there with the E-Spirit plus Snowball is really the nail in the coffin. You're spending so much elixir to not even take out the bats and to still take so much damage. And yeah, I mean, that's really, at this level, it's an unforgivable mistake, and Ilion really paid for it through the rest of that game, because you saw at the end of it, he was actually able to make kind of a case for himself had he just not spent that first part of the game doing what he did. So here we go, a lot of damage in on the left-hand side. Once again, haciel recognizing, okay, let me do a full send with the Royal Hogs. Yes, the King Tower does get activated, and then I'd say he did, I'll give him a B on defense, haciel, 1947 to 1336.
Yeah, I think a B is perfect. I was pleasantly surprised at how little damage, or like just how much damage he got on his offensive push. So yeah, I think a B works out well, and he's got this tower sub 1000 HP.
Yeah.
And I thought he was gonna lose his tower on the first push from Ilion. I mean, he's played this really well. He's got himself way back into this game.
And I do like that we're seeing haciel now in both of his sets, recognizing his opponent's cycle and spell power, and he's gone AQ aggressive at the bridge. And you saw Ilion kind of have to overspend on that last one because he put the cannon cart down, AQ takes it off the board, but then the AQ got a shot, and that's just one of those things that's a total bummer for Ilion. And you can see he's pretty tilted, right? He's kind of deflated when you look on camera.
Yeah, he certainly wears his emotions on his sleeve. He just doesn't look like... Yeah, he just doesn't look like he's in the right mood to play, which isn't something you often see.
And you know what, AC? That might brighten his spirits. A crazy chain. We've talked about the Golden Knight not doing crazy stuff. Well, that just brought Ilion right back in the game. Now Royal Hogs going in on the left-hand side, plus EQ. Knowing that NATO's out of cycle, Ilion overspends here, gets an EWIZ and RG, Royal Ghosts, sorry, down 417 to 794.
And so electing not to defend that, he's going to try and cannon high, and that way he can defend right there. Great defense, plus the log. I mean, haciel played that really, really well. And I can't tell what... Okay, he's just going to go straight Earthquake plus log.
Yeah. Royal Hogs are in, log down. Royal Hogs, one will get on tower. And now he just gets another EQ down. That's it. You see the nod. GG's. Well played. haciel stays alive in the upper bracket. Ilion, 1 life to give. You see a little bit of a clap there for his opponent. Day 1 is in the books. And you know what? Haciel, a big standout in 2021. Excited to see him back strong today, going 4-1 on the day, just like Morton.
Yeah, just like Morton, both of our players, 2 great sets from Morton and Haciel. I am very excited to see them match up against each other. It's like Morton with the consistency and just overall brilliance, and then Haciel, you know, mixing in a few other decks, mixing in a few other, you know, unconventional styles of play where you get super aggressive when other players wouldn't. So I'm very excited for that matchup.
I will say, AC, and here we go, guys. Take a look at this. If you're going to run this deck at the bottom of your screen, that interaction does you dirty. Misses the bats, wall breakers stay alive, and that is already basically game 1 in the books there. And Haciel feeling good about it. He goes, all right, I'm cool with that interaction. You can do that 10 times out of 10, man. I'm happy. And then here we go. Game number 2, a little bit closer. This connection from the Golden Knight happened a few times, and it really became a race for the finish there at the end. But AC, you called it. He's like, he just needs to do, Royal Hogs plus a log, and then he needed a little bit more HP to get that EQ in.
Yeah, he was just he was searching for that one pig snout to reach that little crown tower. Right there, Haciel with the average cost of 3.1. We saw it. I mean, Ilion, anytime he tried building those real pushes, he would just get aggressive. I mean, he had that one early on push where it was very scary, but then it was very solid defense from Haciel with the cannon and the royal delivery, and then a cool log Ice Spirit play that allowed the Golden Knight to kind of get frozen in the middle of the arena. So just really well played and just really well timed aggression. That's the name of his game.
Yeah, and you know, looking at the decks here, you know, we talked about this quite a bit. We don't need to harp on it anymore. Ilion looked like he was just playing a deck that he wasn't super comfortable with. Also pretty heavy there, all things considered. And then you're going up against a really fast cycle deck, and also not a really good way to get on top of those magic archers other than lightnings. So let's move on to game number 2 here, where Haciel was able to just close things out. Golden Knight plus the dash, plus the NATO and the drill were able to even things up. But then Haciel with that deck at the bottom of your, or on the right-hand side of your screen, you know as well as I do, AC, when you're down by even maybe 300-400 HP with that deck and you're getting towards the finish line, it's impossible, or it feels impossible to keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just just hard to keep up. One thing that I kind of want to talk about is just the usage of guards in your decks when Golden Knight is available, because I feel like oftentimes we're seeing very weird interactions happen and matchups that could go one way kind of getting flipped because the guards are providing way too much value for the Golden Knight to chain.
Yeah, and you know, maybe that's a reason why we didn't see as many archers or goblins today as we thought, but then guards kind of do the same thing. So let's take a look here at our bracket. Day 1 in the books. CRL 2023 is on its way, and you, yes, you at home could be here. More on that in just a little bit. Morton, Haciel staying strong up in the upper bracket. Both of them have a life to give. Whoever loses that matchup will end up in the lower semis match, the lower finals, I believe. Match number 13. But first, we've got to figure out who's going to be there. Ilion and Momo, Keita and Sandbox. We got a battle in Asia, and then of course Mohamed Light, the favorite to take Ilion down if he can stay alive. But that's exciting, right? You go from being kind of a no-name dude to playing the #1 player in the world. We'll see what happens tomorrow. A very, very exciting day of action. You see, we got a lot to work through. You see our predictions.
Yeah. 4-4, finishing the day 4-4. You gotta feel great about that. I mean, that's what I call a comeback.
Yeah, cool. You're gonna be a great dad one day, AC. Let's see if I can come out a little bit better tomorrow. We got a lot more matches to come, a lot more action. Of course, a golden ticket to give away, and a lot of money. I mean, just between first and second place, that's $26,000. Everyone
Delicious.
eliminated today. 7th and 8th, 1,000. 5th and 6th, 2,000. Then up to 4 and more. And it's really, really exciting. Remember, we're going to be back here tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific time. AC, before we say goodbye, anything that you would like to say?
You know what? I hope everybody gets their sleep and, you know, enjoys their day.
All right, a man that needs some sleep right now is AC, my co-caster. To all you guys at home, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know every single time we go live, and you, yes, you could be here at CRL, get in that top 1,000 on the leaderboard, then play through that Swiss bracket, and then me, AC, Juicy or Rich might be calling your match. For everyone here at CRL, my boy AC, Juicy, Rich, and everyone at EE, we will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. for CRL Day 2.
The Golden Knight is able to get to the Arnest. 956. That's the Lightning. Oh my goodness.
Look at the celebration from Keita.
Look at this King Tower. It's and I don't even think he's
Where's
gonna
the
be able to
arrows?
take out the tower.
In the Inferno, and you can know Minnie knows he's in the wrong spot. 8 HP, Inferno on the tower. Ilion takes set number 4. A little bit of a stop and stare right here from our two competitors. Minnie taking a bit of a nap.
When there was a Mother Wish completely on the board, I didn't really like that, and it's just such a tough position for him now. I don't know if he'll be able to defend this.
And you see the good game called because he knows the fireball's coming down, and Minnie is already off. He's left the building. He's out.
30 seconds left. It's going to be these 2 goals as the only...
Oh, Golden Knight on the tower. That's it. And you see Morton. He knows it's all sewn up. Wow. Royal Hogs are in. Logged down. Royal Hogs, one will get on tower. And now he just gets another EQ down. That's it. You see the nod. GG's. Well played. Haciel stays alive in the upper bracket.